The story begins with a girl shouting at the MC, calling him a piece of trash and telling him to hurry up and steal the curse that is on Lord Arthur. Crash, holding his sword, imagines that he is at his limit, but even so he replies that he will steal it. He extends his hand and activates his magic, which goes toward Lord Arthur. He possesses the power to steal curses. Among the heroes who are fighting against the erosion of the world, he stood out in the blue generation. All the girls run toward the leader, asking him to take a potion. Arthur, after drinking it, looks up and sees the Death Knight in its most powerful form. He questions whether they will really fight a Death Knight with so few people. Knowing that this is impossible, he drops his sword and calls the girls to leave with him immediately. The three hug his body, and the MC, seeing this scene, gets up and asks what the bastard thinks he is doing. He replies that he will end that situation at that moment and warns that the world no longer has hope, since only ruins remain. Crash becomes furious and shouts, wanting to know if he is really going to give up even after everything they did to get where they are, since they lost countless friends. He finds it funny that the situation reached this point because the guy was busy with women and probably went crazy. Sigrun shouts for him to shut up and guarantees that Arthur did his best. Compared to a piece of trash who only knows how to steal curses and therefore should not speak about the leader, the MC finds this funny, since being called trash by her is nothing new, and points his finger, questioning how she can say such things to someone who saved their lives. He shouts that no one would have gotten so far without his abilities and also refreshes everyone's memory, starting with Abella, who is the Red Witch. He points out that she had said she could not use magic if she lost her voice, and that she even kept begging him to steal the curses. He did everything she asked, and even so the girl attacked him when he went to get painkillers. And both in the past and in the present, the habit of despising people has not changed. The same goes for Mary, who is considered the strongest spear of the Empire. In truth, she is nothing more than an idiot who charges forward without thinking and took on every possible curse and kept begging the MC to remove them. He becomes even more curious as he recounts this, since the princess used to call him a benefactor, someone who sacrificed an eye and is now being called trash even during the academy. She kept placing him as part of her kingdom's Starlone faction, and even after all the bullying, Crash never fought back in any way. He does not understand why she should be the blue generation when he made every sacrifice for the good of the kingdom. He finishes by saying that he cleaned up all the mess up to this point and questions whether everything was for nothing. After all, he does not care about the others. But he cannot believe that Arthur, who should be responsible for saving the world, is giving up. He was supposedly going to lead everyone and even stand at the front of the blue generation, and that was the reason the MC chose to stay by his side. Because of that, he does not understand why he is giving up at that moment. Arthur says that he can finally tell the truth and once again repeats that the world is already over and that he will basically redo everything from the beginning. The MC does not understand what the hell he is talking about, and the leader says that this is not the first time he has seen the end of the world, because his ability is regression. Crash is shocked by this, and Arthur explains that in that life he obtained the inherited memory ability and can regress while keeping his memories. Soon, he will be able to regress with his current experiences and will have a chance to prevent the apocalypse. He then finishes by saying that he will restart everything with the girls by his side. The MC does not accept what he is hearing and asks about himself, whether he will not go along. Arthur remains silent for a moment and then bursts into laughter, saying that he wants nothing more than for Crash to get fucked. He is shocked to hear this, and Arthur admits that the Black Hood ability is useful, since it can steal any existing curse. However, he does not know why he would regress with someone whose body and mind are already weak and does not know what use he would have. After all, it is much better to take a fresh version of him. Crash does not accept this, since he was nothing more than an object, and the man tells him not to worry, since he will make good use of him in the next regression. The MC tries to process what is happening and feels that deep down, he always knew when the generation ignored him and he only stood there watching. That was when he discovered that they never saw him as a companion. He screams with all his strength for them to take him, but Arthur only laughs. Then the MC, knowing that he will end up fainting because of the curses, assures that he will not die that way. He knows that his ability can steal only curses, but that is because he never tested it on other things, such as, for example, Arthur's ability, since he did not consider it a curse. However, He thinks it is worth trying and therefore uses the black hood toward the leader. His ability flies straight into him, and only then does he realize that it simply worked, since the ability devoured the regression ability for itself. However, Arthur did not notice this and still insists on asking why Crash has not yet given up on trying something. He says that the boy witnessed countless apocalypses, and that every time he became useless, he discarded him, leaving him to die again, and he no longer even knows how many times this happened. The MC, still lying down, assures that the one who will suffer will be him and, with a big smile, points upward, telling him to be careful. After all, the world is in ruins, and because of that, he needs to be careful, since if he does not want to die, it is better to fight to survive, because the one who will regress will be himself. Sometime later, Crash, who had been asleep, opens his eyes and gets up in shock. He looks around and realizes that it is where he lived when he was a child. This is Crash at 13 years of age. That is because the regression was a success. Now, about the erosion of the world. It was a phenomenon where the world almost literally suffers. Erosion by another dimension. When erosion occurs, environmental changes also appear and, making things even worse, species of erosions invade the world, and among them, there is one that has a humanoid form. These are known as world invaders. Both civilians and soldiers panic, and those who resist the erosion are called the Blue Generation. The MC is one of these people. He has a body capable of sealing curses, and, because of that, he entered the Blue Generation. He was also treated only as a curse vassal and, in the end, was also betrayed by his companions. This was his life until he woke up now in his younger body. He realizes that he is in his room and remembers that he was in deadly cold before, but at that moment it is as hot as summer. He deduces that, if he is in the Green Pine Mansion where he lived as a child, that means his last gamble using the Black Hood ability on Arthur was a success, and did, in fact, manage to steal the ability. However, he becomes curious about this since he has no idea how he managed to steal it. People usually think that the Black Hood is an ability that can be used freely without restriction. However, it has a distinct flaw. It can steal the possession of a target if the user manages to unlock the lock generated after activation. This lock is generated based on the owner's affinity with the object. If a stone found on street was recognized as something valuable, something like block, the condition will appear: transfer 99 of the world's wealth to the owner. In other words, the difficulty of stealing increases. It is something like a type of unique ability that is highly valued, and the difficulty of stealing it is astronomical. In short, he knows that the greater the value, the more conditions there will be and the more difficult they will be. Then, he thinks about Arthur and what was going through his mind. After all, when he activated his ability, he did not see any lock. He thinks a little more about this fact and concludes that perhaps Arthur wanted to abandon the ability. He is surprised to think that the man known as the King of Heroes wanted to abandon his regression ability. He remembers some times when Arthur showed an expression of exhaustion and moved only to finish a task. A world that was destined for destruction and kept happening repeatedly, so he probably went insane. In other words, to Arthur this ability was a curse. That is why he tried to make the girls retain their memories and return together with him, while excluding him at the same time. The MC concludes that the fact he managed to steal this ability, and that the Arthur he knew lost the ability, being left behind in the world on the brink of destruction, was crushed by the meteor of the Blue Death Knight. He comments that he stole the ability from the boy he wanted so badly to get rid of, and hopes he is happy he says this and laughs, since he was always looked down on, as if stealing curses were something anyone could do, and even the hero never paid attention to his companions when he was suffering in the shadows. Because of these memories, he does not have a single ounce of regret for having left everyone to die still in the mansion. The MC looks at his reflection in the mirror, and realizes that he is still small. He looked more like he was 10 years old, with a small stature but moderately developed muscles. This is the result of swinging a sword every day, trying to survive in the Valheim family, the strongest martial clan in the kingdom. He concludes that if he is in the Green Pine Mansion, it means his trial ceremony must have already taken place. The Valheim family's trial ceremony is a place to prove the ability that will be revealed by the god with whom one has contracted. The better the contractor, the higher the god's rank. His family's lineage was always blessed. However, the same could not be said about him. He had no talent or martial prowess because no god chose him. After that, He was expelled from his main house and sent to the Green Pine Mansion, where all failures go. He reflects that, at the moment, he is the only one who knows about the end of the world. An apocalypse that not even the Blue Generation will be able to stop. This makes him question whether he will be able to prevent the destruction of that world. He tries not to get discouraged. Since he does not know whether he will be able to stop it or not, after all, he has to stop it, because if the world ends, he will go with it. And, excited, he knows he has no other choice. While walking, he is called by the butler. The MC is glad to see that Ariad is still alive. He is the only butler of the mansion. The MC, excited, calls out to the old man and then asks when he will use the poison that his brother gave him to kill him. Those words make the butler break out in a cold sweat. In short, the MC was poisoned when he was 14 years old. And that was his first lesson about betrayal. Still in the regression, there is a girl battling against other warriors. She was relentless. Everyone questioned whether the girl was really 15 years old, since the knights could do nothing against her. This is Charlotte, the MC's older sister, and she holds the title of Sword Saint. The audience whispers that the girl is a talent that appears once every millennium, and, because of that, all the lords of every house have high expectations of her. Meanwhile, Varokin, the MC's brother, hears everything and furious says that he will kill everyone of the Valheim lineage. He knows that Charlotte is an enormous risk and that her mother is at least decent. Then, already in another place, he says that the MC is a useless failure and warns the butler that he will first kill his half-brother, and emphasizes that even the butler has a reason for this, since his career was hindered because of the boy. Therefore, he explains that it is just to give a single drop of the poison to Crash, and by doing that, he will not have to worry about his daughter's treatment or money. And he asks whether he is hesitating. Ariad replies that the MC is someone he raised as his own son, and that doing something like that is absurd. However, Varokin calls his attention and tells him to choose whom he will save. Whether he will save another person's son or his own biological daughter, he sees no way out, but still answers no. With this outcome, the MC finds himself holding the butler in his arms, vomiting heavily. Basically, on the day Ariad was supposed to kill him, the butler was unable to bear the guilt and therefore ate the poison steak and ended up dying in his place. Back in the present, the old man asks what he means by that talk about poison, and Crash tells him not to play dumb, since even knowing he was going to kill him for the sake of his daughter, it is sad to imagine that he would not know about it. The butler lowers his head while listening to those words, and the MC feels a little awkward, since acting that way will end up leaving the old man with no choices. And so, he says that if he wants to play dumb, he can go right ahead, and if it had not been a mistake from the beginning, he would never have given that order. The butler is surprised, since at first he imagined that the boy would blame himself for having betrayed him or cry in rage, but he wonders whether the young master has changed. He thinks about this while the MC asks him to accompany him. They go to the library, and the old man wonders whether Crash is going to study. However, he simply asks him to cut the wall. Ariad does not understand this request, but the MC merely says that this feat should be easy for the butler of the Valheim family. Ariad answers yes, and, concentrating energy in his sword, unleashes a full-powered attack against the wall, opening a huge hole. He asks whether it might be a secret passage. Crash merely says that he did a good job and starts walking. Ariad begins to follow him, and concludes that the boy is definitely a completely different person from the day before, and even has an aura that resembles that of the Lord. And he does not understand what the hell happened. The MC reflects that that moment brings him memories before everything was burned, but at that moment, he managed to reach the place before that happened. The butler asks whether he should cut the chains, but he answers that unfortunately, he will not be able to. Then, excited, he decides to test his Black Hood ability. The power moves toward the chains, and, with extreme ease, destroys them all. This feat leaves the butler so frightened that he asks whether he might have made a contract with a god. Crash is startled since he ended up showing something that he has not yet obtained at that point in time, and so, he answers that yes, he made a contract with an insignificant god, and even says that regarding the library, he should feel free to report it to his father. Ariad is surprised since until the day before the young master's eyes seem to have lost the will to live, but he believes that everything changed if he made a contract with a god and probably obtained a powerful ability. The butler also knows that the MC has the same lineage as the greatest genius of the Valheim family, and even if he is not at the same level as her, he will probably display great feats. With that in mind, he draws the MC's attention and says that until he finishes what he has to do, he will not report anything to the head of the family. He hears this and imagines that it is probably the side effect of regression, since he is acting differently than before. A change occurred with Iriad. Basically, the butler who betrayed him will live only in his memory, and he thinks that Arthur must also have suffered from this, and that this is probably the reason for wanting to get rid of this ability. Crash also imagines that if he manages to cure Iriad's daughter's illness, the man will probably swear eternal loyalty. He knows that he needs to increase the number of pawns while he is in that regression. With that in mind, he simply tells the old man to do as he wishes, since deep down, he knows that he can cure his daughter later. After all, the secret library is his priority. He sees a glow on the door and is startled, since completely out of nowhere, a fire attack flew straight at him with full force. He admits to being surprised, since he is the person who endured several curses and still got goosebumps. And because of that, he has no doubts that a specific book is in that place until he finally finds what he was looking for now. Regarding the secret library of the Green Pine Mansion, the ancestors who were called failures of the Valheim family wrote their techniques and life memories. It is not an ability, but a product of humanity. A place where they kept their secret books to reach the peak. At first, it was a place of free access, but it became secret because of one person. That person was Damaris. He was the worst failure in the history of the Valheim family, but he was also the person who was consumed by the erosion of the world and became the strongest. With that in mind, he gets excited, since he will take the secret book of the worst of the failures. Now, about Damaris Valheim, the greatest failure in the history of Valheim. Even so, he was also the strongest person in the history of the family. When he was at the peak of his power, some of the most powerful warriors challenged him. However, no one was able to stop him. He had extreme immersion poison in his blood. This was because he incorporated the erosion of the world into his own body and possessed an insane secret art to handle his power. The MC thinks about all of this and imagines that before, half of the book was burned, so he did not know why Damaris ended up that way. But apparently, he went mad because he could not control the advance of the erosion. He stops to think that, when he was caught by the curse of the world's erosion, he ended up weakening the curse with the Black Hood and, somehow, endured it by compensating with other curses. The same principle applies to the devastation caused by extreme immersion poison in the blood. This is because he stole a curse that controls the advance. This makes him question whether, by any chance, he might be able to become strong like Damaris. Thinking about all of this, he draws the butler's attention and gives the order to ensure that from that day on, no one enters the Green Pine Mansion. Iriad says he understands and returns to his post. Meanwhile, he imagines that the young master will turn a blind eye to his mistake and, therefore, he should repay his kindness by refusing Verikan's proposal. He says this to the boy, who becomes furious at having his proposal to poison the MC rejected. He says that a person who has so many flaws only makes him more nervous. He also believes that if it were not for the MC's mother's bloodline getting in the way, both Lilish and he himself would have maintained their positions in the direct lineage. Suddenly, he shouts, calling another butler, and orders him to go to the Green Pine Mansion, where Crash is, to investigate why Iriad changed his mind. However, he replies that it is not possible to enter. This is because Iriad, who is the young master's butler, prevented entry even to the head of the family. Verikan cannot believe this absurdity, since he is even blocking the head of the family from entering. Meanwhile, the MC continues channeling energy. He realizes that he has finally reached the experienced beginner level. He knows that there are several stages of aura, such as aura user, aura expert, aura master, and finally the aura emperor. The second stage, which is in the experienced aura stage, is the stage where most users are and is what separates geniuses from normal people. He has just arrived there, while his sister Charlotte, who is 2 years older, is already an aura master and possesses incredible talent. However, even though she is an incredible monster, in the end, she was useless against the erosion. The MC is aware that, compared to her, he is nothing more than a beginner and, therefore, does not know if he can really save the world. However, his self from before the regression warns him that he will not know before trying and, therefore, he should stop lamenting, since in the first place it was not even possible to use aura before the regression. But at that moment it is different, because even without comparing himself to her, he can become stronger with the secret art that was left by a failure just like him. Thus, excited, he knows that he will definitely be able to become stronger, and for now that is enough. Sometime later, he leaves his room and the butler congratulates him for reaching the experienced beginner level. He replies that this is nothing, but questions why he is waiting outside. Ariad explains that the MC's fiancée, Bianca Hardenhart, has arrived at the mansion to visit him. He is surprised by this, since he knows that she is the White Demoness. She is the leader who became a pawn of the world Devourers and tried to destroy the world and the entity that defeated one of the strongest celestials and earned the nickname White Demoness. He is aware that despite all of this, at that moment, Bianca is nothing more than a little girl, the youngest daughter of the Hardenhart family. He also thinks about this political merit. Basically, the Hardenhart family rules the north and the Valheim family used a useless person like the MC to gain a connection with a strong martial family. He finds this funny, since they are being used for the convenience of their families, and thinks it is nice that she visited him. Now, a little more about Bianca. She is the youngest daughter of the Hardenhart family, rulers of the north, because her mother was affected by the curse of world erosion before she was born. Because of that, Bianca was cursed by the Snowdoll curse, deprived of emotions since birth. The curse, having reached her soul, cannot be broken, and she was not able to form a contract with a god due to her body. Because of that, she was treated as a cursed child, born in exchange for her mother's life. Crash stops to think whether the girl might hate him, but knows that as long as he does not steal her curse, everything will be fine. This is because the Snowdoll curse is necessary to control the healing of the extreme immersion poison in the blood. The MC asks the butler to prepare some clothes and also tells the girl to come in. 5 months ago, Crash, who at the time was not yet the MC, slapped her hand and shouted for her to leave, saying that she was only interested in the power of the Valheim family and therefore should not act as if she were a wife. After the door was closed behind her, she reflects that it is not as if she wanted to be in that place. This is because her father said that the only way for the family to survive depends on the Valheims, and since she is wonderful, she needs to win over the hearts of the younger ones. In a way, the fate of the Hardenhart's family depends solely on her. Bianca reflects that even without emotions, she can distinguish right from wrong. So, if she had not been forced by her family to marry, a filthy-mouthed loser like him would not have had the slightest chance. Basically, she would be the one rejecting him back in the present. The MC, a little awkward, says that he cannot believe they serve such hot tea to someone with such a sensitive tongue, and that he will talk to the maid later. Bianca remains silent listening to this, and he says that the weather is great and that they should probably walk through the garden. Since in the north there should not be many flowers because of the snow while they walk, Crash orders the butler to bring some macadamia cookies to the garden. Then he says that she probably had a difficult path. And Bianca replies that since they are going to get married, opportunities to get to know each other better are necessary. He says he understands, but feels as if she is talking to a superior rather than to a spouse. She feels that there is something strange. After all, when they met before, he looked at her in a sharp way, but at that moment, it is as if he were a different person. Moreover, what intrigues her the most is that he had never said that he liked macadamia cookies. After they reach the outside, she wastes no time and asks if he is really Crash. Both stare at each other for a moment, and the MC, releasing all his aura, asks if he is really that different from how he was before. She is startled, wondering if that is killing intent, and immediately bows down apologizing, since she spoke without thinking. He feels bad, since his memories of that time are a mess, and he does not even know how he treated her. But of one thing he is certain, that is the only expression Bianca has. It was even the same expression she had when she met her end in the mansion of the frozen sea in the north. The MC decides to change the subject for now, and says that it is not a surprise that she thinks that way, since he has just formed a contract with a god. Bianca then considers that his personality changed after the contract, and therefore congratulates him on that achievement. He says that he has a proposal to make, and she considers that the boy went so far as to form a contract with a god, and now wants to make a proposal. So she asks if it is one to end the marriage. He immediately answers that it is not, and even says that he does not know why she thought such an absurd thing. Then, being dramatic, he says that he even understands why she would not want to marry someone like him, and that he himself even wants to end the marriage. She does not understand why Crash is being depressive, and has such low self-esteem even though he is a Valheim. She sighs and replies that she is his wife, and that this will not change. The MC is surprised to hear that, and does not even remember the last time he heard words without any lie. With that, he asks to return to the main subject about his awakened ability, and confidently says that he wants to steal her curse. Bianca is startled by this, since he wants to steal her curse, which not even curse breakers have been able to break. She asks if he really wants that, and he replies that yes, because that way he might be able to fulfill a wish he has, such as, for example, ending this marriage. She reflects that she even knows that Crash is treated as a failure, and, if that is the case, there must be a wall between him and the main lineage, and he is probably tired of it to the point of wanting to erase his emotions. She thinks a bit more about it, and remembers that a mental mage once said that when a person reaches their maximum mental potential, they become sick at heart and end up succumbing to this illness, possibly even taking their own life, or suddenly becoming kind as if they were another person. The old man continues, saying that it is a very dangerous moment, since such behaviors are warning signs of their end, and, if you know someone like that, you should stay by their side. After remembering this, she takes his hand and says that everything will be fine, since he just needs to control his emotions without relying on the curse. The MC comments that apparently she understood something wrong, and Bianca says that she will see him more often, and even if she asks her father, he might be allowed to live closer. But he shouts, wanting to know what this talk is about, since as far as he knows she hates him and did not even want this marriage. She says that even if that were true, she would not abandon someone in danger. Crash even understands that Bianca is the type who throws herself head first into things when she decides to do them, but he feels that there is a misunderstanding. In any case, since he will not receive it in good faith, he uses his Black Hood ability and reaches the point where the curse is, and with that, the condition to unlock the lock is generated. He is startled to see that the first condition to unlock it is to become Bianca's friend. He quickly realizes that it is a problem for there to be a lock. After all, it is a curse that was born with the girl, is recognized as part of her body, and has its value. He also thinks about this condition, since he knows that becoming her friend is more difficult than becoming her spouse, because she has no emotions and therefore rarely shows interest in anything in addition. Sending her back would only be a matter of time until she becomes the White Demon, and therefore, he must keep her by his side to look for an opportunity to become her friend. He knows that if he manages to prevent her from becoming the White Demon and also obtain the Snow Doll, then it will be killing two birds with one stone. With this in mind, he says that he is happy with her cooperation and is even grateful that she sees him as a spouse. She says that first, she will check with her father since she needs to confirm it, and then leaves. He knows that it will take a month for the girl to return, and that he must read all the secret art books until then. The next day, at the Green Pine Mansion, a carriage arrives, and in it is Bianca, saying that from that day on, she will live in the mansion together with him. The MC despairs, since that means they will live together. Some time later, he wakes up and sees Bianca sleeping beside him. The MC does not like this at all, since if she is seen with someone like him, people will misunderstand soon after. She wakes up, says good morning, and even asks why he is in that place. This angers him, since the one who should be asking that was him. Early in the morning, Crash continues channeling energy to increase his aura until he stops to think that it has already been a few months since he started living with Bianca. He remembers exactly the day she appeared, saying that she would live in the Pinjero Verde mansion, which was a shock to him, since he did not know she would simply move in. Bianca explains that this is not a problem, since her family gave permission. The MC finds this very strange and even wonders if she was okay living away from her family. After all, when one has no emotions, affection for family also disappears, and perhaps you become indifferent to this kind of feeling. In the end, this was a good opportunity to become her friend. He thinks about all this since it was summer, and it is almost winter now, so nearly a year has already passed, which means that the opening of Rehern Academy is approaching. This is an academy established by the four great kingdoms and the Empire working together to train people who can oppose the erosion of the world. Basically, young people between 15 and 20 years old can attend it before Crash's regression. That was the academy that produced countless members of the Blue Generation who possess stolen abilities. He becomes furious remembering all of this, but sees the bright side, since he knows everyone's weaknesses better than anyone else. So he will be able to steal their abilities easily, and is determined to do so. As soon as he enters the academy, he will turn 14 next year. So he will have one extra year before enrollment and will need to find a way to become stronger until then. However, He is realizing that he has begun to reach the limits of his talent. Basically, with only a single secret stumble, the beginner level at the entrance to specialists is his limit. And he knows that to surpass this wall, he has no choice but to steal Bianca's Snowdoll curse as quickly as possible and learn how to use blood immersion poison. He goes to the door and asks if she was waiting once again. Bianca answers yes, since she cannot leave him alone. The MC does not like this at all, since the girl has been following him everywhere like a bird since summer, and his only doubt is when she will start seeing him as a friend at that moment. The butler appears and says that an invitation from the Stellar Sanctuary has arrived. He is surprised by this news, since the Stellar Sanctuary is a festival for miners in the Kingdom of Starlon held once a year. Most people attend unless it is an exceptional case, and it is excellent for socializing and expanding one's connections. He receives the letter and thanks him for it, while also reflecting that he has been confined to the mansion since his regression and, because of that, his memories of that time are vague. On the other hand, he knows that a certain person will appear, so he must hurry to fulfill his promise to Ariadne. He returns the letter and orders a reply saying that he will attend, as well as Bianca, who says the same after the butler leaves. Bianca comments that the participants of the sanctuary will probably try to criticize him. He agrees and even does not know how it will be for her, so he considers that it might be better for her not to go. She refuses, since she wants to go with him, and because it is the duty of a fiancé to protect her partner. He finds this nice, but says that he is not speaking as a fiancé and instead wants to know her true feelings. She soon notices the look of pity on his face again and imagines that over the past months, Crash has been kind in a strange way, always asking if she wants breakfast and also inviting her to go to the library or even accompanying her when she went to sleep in the middle of the afternoon. She felt warm, since she had never been treated with so much kindness, not even by her own family. And, watching the MC train, she thinks that he is being so good that she can no longer even remember how terrible her first impression of him was. Thinking about it, she states that she will go with him not as a fiancé, but of her own free will. Crash is surprised by this and smiles, since he finally heard what he wanted. By the late afternoon they go by carriage, and he comments that it is surprising that people rented the most famous tourist spot in the area and believes they have a lot of money to throw away. The reason nobles are respected in that world is because they can fight against the erosion of the world in place of the commoners, and even so, these people obsessed with parties instead of training are supposedly the future of Starlon. They finally arrive at the sanctuary, and at first glance, he strongly doubts that there are many decent people in that place. Immediately, gossip spreads freely, with people asking if the Crash who arrived is the useless son of the Valheim family, in addition to thinking it is a waste that the cursed daughter of the Conqueror of the North has such beauty. The MC soon realizes that amid so many fake nobles, there are also some true nobles, those who will later join the Blue Generation, starting with Balak, the Tiger Man, followed by the Elf Amelia, and lastly the Wooden Archer Annex. The three will become known as the Three Heroes of Starlon. The MC finds this annoying, since he knows the reason the three people showed interest in him is because of his beautiful sister. Charlotte, in past sanctuaries, beat everyone even while wearing a beautiful dress, and all Crash did was stay curled up, since she was terrifying. He knows she boasts every time, and has probably already gone wild because of the atmosphere in that place at that moment. Bianca calls him and asks him please not to care about what others are saying. He imagines that he was not even caring, since he had only remembered his sister, and placing his hand on her head. He imagines that she was also insulted, and even so is worried about him. Besides that, he wonders when that guy will show up. No sooner does he think about it, than the person arrives greeting everyone. This is the center of attention of the Alchemy Castle, Darling Danfilion. Before the regression, he was covered in curses, and Darling, who was his friend, asked what had happened for him to become so bad, in addition to noticing that there was every kind of erosion, and that one matched the other. He also asked if he was interested in becoming his test subject, since that way he would cure him, and kept moving the MC from one side to the other until, completely out of nowhere, he prepared to give a kiss. And the MC, irritated, told the maniac to back off. It was his first time meeting the man who would later become known as the King of Alchemy. The best in the world. Back in the present, everyone notices Darling's presence, and while some praise how handsome he is, others comment that the boy is weird, and that he arrived late on purpose just to gain attention. Crash, on the other hand, imagines that it is not possible that the attention-seeking stalker would be in a place like that with people of the same age. Next, he runs to the table, grabs a cake, and hands it to Bianca, also asking her to wait for him. She replies that it will not be a problem. Soon, Darling notices his presence, wondering who the boy is, since he feels as if he has seen him before. The MC introduces himself as Crash Valheim, and immediately the boy recognizes the Valheim surname, since he indeed resembles Charlotte. Because of that, his eyes light up, as he is facing the younger brother of the famous Charlotte. And so he asks if he has some business with him, or if perhaps the clothes he is wearing drew that much attention. The MC gets straight to the point, and comments that recently the boy must have researched the erosion of the world, and therefore wants to know if his interest in him has increased a little more. Darling finds it interesting that there is such a provocative boy, and therefore tells him to get ready since he has earned his interest in another room. Darling asks how old he is at the moment. Crash answers that he is 13 years old, and asks if age really matters that much. Darling admits that he is surprised since his friend is 13 years old, but the aura is completely different from children of that age. The MC imagines that, on the inside, he is a veteran graduate of the academy, but asks to get straight to the point. Darling tells him to go ahead, but before that he throws a sword for the MC to catch, and immediately attacks, making Crash block by reflex. While continuing to block, he asks what the hell he is doing attacking out of nowhere. The boy comments that he met Charlotte's younger brother, and just wanted to see what abilities he has. Crash finds this a pain in the ass, especially since Darling keeps attacking non-stop, until the MC gets irritated and counterattacks, putting pressure on Darling, who even asks whether Charlotte's so-called younger brother wasn't supposed to be a useless person without abilities. He comments that despite appearances, he trains every day, but imagines it is complicated to use secret techniques against a student, and therefore should hold back because of that. He says he could help with research on curse neutralization. Darling is startled upon hearing this, and starts attacking faster, since he wants to know what a mere boy knows about alchemy to be talking about that. Crash notices this, and moves at high speed, placing the sword at the boy's neck. In addition, he says that to become a first-class alchemist, it is necessary to first prove the research to neutralize the curse of world erosion, which the dispersers have still not managed to break using other curses. Having said that, he explains that he will help with his ability to steal curses. At that moment, Darling is shocked to see that the MC possesses aura, even though he was supposed to be a useless boy without abilities, but soon imagines that it is an excellent opportunity if he is telling the truth, since he will be able to simultaneously prove supply and demand and curse neutralization. With that, he asks what he should do in return, suggesting something like becoming lovers. The MC tells him not to talk nonsense, since he will only acquire many curses in the future, and just wants him to make a medicine to reduce those curses. The boy says that making medicines is indeed his specialty, and Crash is aware of that, as well as knowing that stealing abilities alone is not enough. After all, even the blue generation that managed to use extraordinary abilities could not prevent the destruction of the earth. Therefore, a useless person like himself has to use every possible means, whether medicine or anything else. Darling then observes that, as far as he knew, the MC had completely lost his motivation from constantly being compared to his older sister, Charlotte. However, that does not seem to be the case when seeing him in person. After all, one is an overwhelming genius, and the other is a distorted person with those thoughts. He asks to inquire about something and questions whether he will go to the future Rehern Academy. He replies that he obviously will, since there are a shitload of abilities to be stolen at that academy. Darling gets excited hearing this, and shouts that he will do anything, whether mixing medicines or whatever, since it involves curses. So he agrees. The MC soon realizes that the guy has not changed at all, and asks whether he knows the disease of discoloration. He replies yes, that it is an incurable disease in which the skin turns black and eventually leads to death. Crash hears this and orders him to make a medicine for this disease. Darling cannot believe the absurd thing he just heard, and asks whether he does not know the meaning of the word incurable, since even for himself this is impossible. The MC knows that one way or another the boy succeeded, even if it was a little in the future. So he sighs, stretches out his arm, and confidently asks him to do it, since he believes he can. Darling finds this interesting, since it wounds his pride, and agrees to do it. Crash tells him to send the medicine to the Green Pine Mansion as soon as it is ready. Then he comments that he would like to ask something since he believes the boy likes his sister. Darling gets excited and replies that he loves Charlotte. This makes the MC question why he keeps talking about lovers, or saying that he would like to be by his side and things like that. Darling replies that apparently Crash is still a child and cheerfully says that he also likes men, since he plays for both sides. The MC is shocked by this and runs away, telling him to stay away. After moving away a little, he notices that several people are gathered until he sees a boy grabbing Bianca's arm. And, in addition to squeezing hard, she could only say Crash's name. Seeing this, he comes in flying, landing a hard kick to the guy's face that sends him crashing onto a table. Then he asks what the hell the guy thinks he's doing, trying to take his fiancée by force. He asks what the hell he was thinking by trying to put his hands on a 12-year-old girl, and questions whether that piece of shit likes that kind of thing. He immediately replies that no, since he was just following orders from Princess Claudia. The MC asks if he's talking about Claudia Stalin, and he answers yes, since the second princess ordered Bianca to be brought to her, and, because the girl resisted, he tried to take her by force, but there was no way to avoid it since it was a royal order. Crash thinks about this, since Bianca is the youngest daughter of the Hardenhart's family, the rulers of the north. Due to her curse, her reputation among the nobles is low, but he doesn't understand why the princess, who always plays around with her followers, would go to the trouble of summoning her. He imagines that something is wrong, and that there may be some other connection. As he thinks about it, a person comes to mind, and this makes him furious, suspecting it might be Anax, since the guy used to obsessively pursue his sister. After Anax was defeated in the Celestial Sanctuary, even while hating Charlotte, he couldn't get rid of his admiration for her, and that drove him crazy. He knew he would never be able to defeat her with his own power, so he is now targeting the younger brother. The MC takes a deep breath and looks at the boy once again, questioning whether he is really taking Bianca only for that. Then he says that it's fine, and warns that instead of the second princess, he will go see Anax. The guy doesn't understand why he is talking about Lord Anax. Crash thinks it's ridiculous, since the kid serves the princess and doesn't even know who actually ordered it, and because of that, he leaves with Bianca. As they walk, Crash tries to understand why Bianca refused to go see the princess. He imagines it's because he managed to guess who was behind it, since he had lived through this before, but his fiancée at 12 years old shouldn't be able to understand the situation, and he doesn't understand why she ignored it. So he calls her attention, and asks why she disobeyed the prince's order. She replies that it was because he asked her to wait for him to return. The MC is surprised to hear that, and, smiling, says that she did a good job. After arriving at the place, he is received by Balak, who is surprised that he actually showed. A Crash informs him that he is there to see Anax. He comments that he already knows and was even instructed to let him in. The MC thinks it's a pain, since he always wondered why he thought the boy was such a skilled dual swordsman, and doesn't know where everything went wrong. In any case, he is relieved that Anax ordered them to help him enter. But before that could happen, Balak says that he is curious about his abilities, and therefore wants to fight. The MC thinks it's a pain, and warns that fighting is forbidden inside the Celestial Sanctuary. The boy doesn't care about that at all, since he fought Charlotte anyway, so fighting him will be easy. This catches Crash's attention, since he learned that the boy lasted even longer against Charlotte than Anax did. Even though both are specialists, Anax's level is a bit higher, but his battle sense is so unpredictable that he can't read his next move. He even wants to avoid fighting Balak, but by the look in his eyes, he knows the boy won't give up that easily. So he prepares himself because without warning, Balak attacks after dodging. He counterattacks, but the Tiger Man also dodges. However, the MC is faster and manages to land. Then he prepares himself, and lands his Oninch punch squarely in the boy's stomach, making him roll on the ground in pain. Crash takes a deep breath, since it's finally over. Balak gets up, calling the MC cruel, and he replies that he was actually challenged, so he didn't do anything wrong. The Tiger Man agrees, and asks to wait so he can pick up his weapon first. Crash finds that funny, and asks if he can even stay on his feet. The boy hears that, but soon starts to black out until he finally collapses unconscious on the ground. Bianca, intrigued, asks what he did. The MC replies that he used his family's secret technique. That was the 1-inch strike a long time ago. A failure from the Valheim family created it. It is a secret technique that releases the maximum destructive power at the shortest distance. Depending on the condition, it can even cause internal damage before the regression. This was the only technique he managed to save from the burning mansion. And thanks to it, he survived countless life and death situations. He says he used his best technique, and therefore the boy will not get up for a long time. Next, he meets Annex, and Emilia immediately runs over when she sees Balak's condition on the ground. The boy admits that he is surprised that the MC really defeated the Tigresso, but Crash asks what the intention was behind using the second princess just to lure him to that place, and, whatever the reason may be, asks him to say it right away. Annex finds this interesting since he heard different rumors about the boy being weak, and perhaps those rumors are false. The MC finds this amusing, since it was actually Annex himself who spread those rumors. However, if he loses in that place, the rumors will change a bit because from that moment on, he himself will steal his opponent's abilities. Having said that, he comments that the rumors say he is a failure, so be it. But if he defeats him, the rumors will change. Annex finds this interesting, and the MC thinks better of him. They were together from the academy until the Blue Generation, and were basically old friends. Since they spent a lot of time together, he knows him very well, such as the fact that he only stayed close to the MC because he was useful to him, and that usefulness came from the worst possible reason. Crash was hanging from a cliff, unable to believe how everyone had died. At that moment, Annex approached and said that if people discovered that he fell into the trap because of him, he would certainly lose his place in the Blue Generation, but if only he himself survived. No one would ever know. The MC does not like this at all, and questions whether he really believes he will get away with it easily, since internal power struggles are already quite complicated, and he will definitely be expelled because of the incident. Annex laughs at this, believing that everything is fine since he will put all the blame on the MC. After all, he is hated by everyone, and thus the truth about the incident will be swept under the rug. With that, he thanks Crash for being a friend until the end. The MC gets irritated by that expression since in reality he never considered him a friend, and he was only present because he was after Charlotte, and he even got distracted throughout the entire battle after finding out that she was going to get married. Annex says that this is exactly why he hates him. Even without having any talent at all, he has sharp intuition, and that part of him always gets in his way. So, since Charlotte is also getting married, he sees no reason for this fake friendship to continue. He believes that perhaps this is for the best. After all, Charlotte would not want to hold a funeral on her wedding day. At that moment, the MC loses his strength and lets go of the cliff. He cannot believe that things will end this way. At that instant, Arthur appears and saves his life, and that was when the two ended up on the same team. After thinking about all of this, he knows that, in truth, that was the beginning of the greatest catastrophe of all. In any case, Annex was expelled from the Blue Generation due to Arthur's testimony, and what pissed him off the most was the guy trying to marry the princess out of desperation. Suddenly, the boy says that the face and the way he speaks are identical to Charlotte's. The MC becomes increasingly irritated, since the bastard has not changed at all. Because of that, he tells him not to casually mention his sister's name like that. He prepares himself and charges forward, since, like his sister, he never runs from a fight. Annex finds this amusing and blocks the first punch with his ability. Crash keeps trying to attack, but cannot land a single kick. In addition, a vine grabs his leg and throws him back, forcing him to reposition. He knows it will be more difficult than he thought, since he is facing the Glazer family's secret technique, the Celestial Wood style. It is a special technique that strengthens plants with aura to manipulate them. While combining it with his recovery ability, he manages to manipulate multiple plants and exceed the technique. The MC asks if he wants him to fight with a weapon and picks up a piece of wood. Annex becomes furious at the provocation and attacks with several vines at the same time, wanting to know how he will defend himself with a branch. Then, at high speed, he dodges all the attacks. This leaves the boy completely terrified, since it would make sense if it were a genius like Charlotte. But he cannot understand how a useless person managed to accomplish this feat without awakening the mind eye or something like that. The MC approaches at high speed since before his regression, he had seen that guy's abilities until he was sick of them, and because of that, he provokes him, wanting to know if even at that moment he is thinking about Charlotte. He gets irritated since he had been quiet and uses another ability that sends Crash flying away. This is his Celestial Wood style, 5th form, the Wood Giant. He tells him to be careful, but even Emilia panics, since her friend is going too far. And, if it hits Crash directly, the consequences would be irreversible. The MC watches the wood giant attack and takes a deep breath. He knows that among all the books in the mansion's library, there was a tiny secret manual. The author was an ancestor who swung his sword continuously until the age of 80. He had no talent. He was simply a man who endlessly repeated mundane swinging drills. The manual, written in his final years, was short, documenting only his swinging practices, but the technique required a state of unity between oneself and the object, a realm unattainable through superficial martial study. However, since he himself had been involved in a similar situation countless times due to his curse, he was able to understand his ancestor's secret technique. He and the sword become one, and with a single movement, he cuts the wood giant in half, which is enough to leave everyone present shocked by what they have just witnessed. Crash approaches through the smoke and tells him not to be too arrogant with so little power. Anax collapses to the ground after having his masterpiece destroyed. As for the MC, he thinks everything is crap because he intended to hold back enough to make stealing the ability easier, but he put all his strength into the attack and cannot move a single muscle. At that moment, Bianca walks up to him and hugs him from behind, saying she will help. Darling also approaches. But before that, Bianca hugs him with all her strength, almost crushing the MC in the process. The alchemist says that at this rate Crash will die, and because of that, he picks up the boy and walks out through the hall while everyone present gossips, unable to believe that a useless person truly defeated Anax. Darling is surprised, since the rumors spread faster than she expected, and although she had not planned anything on a large scale, she at least believes that Crash will be a celebrity as soon as he wakes up. Besides that, something else is worrying her, since the expression Anax had left her uneasy, as if it belonged to someone who would do something serious after everything that happened. Because of that, she asks him not to die before helping with the research. After that, a week passes and the MC continues training at full throttle. He feels relieved, since he has completely recovered from the sword damage, and knows that if he had used it continuously to corner him until the end, he would be in a worse situation than Anax. Moreover, if he had not fainted, he could at least have finished the preparations to steal the ability. The MC imagines that he had two methods in mind to do this. The first method was to unlock the Black Hood seal, and the second method was to induce the opponent to doubt his own ability. And the method he intended to use against Anax was the second. This method is categorized as easy to perform, since by defeating the opponent in an overwhelming manner, such as the wood giant being destroyed with a single attack, it made Anax doubt his own ability. After all, he lost to a useless person he despised. Crash knows that, even if it takes time, he will eventually steal the recovery ability. He also wants to spend every day training to surpass the geniuses. At that moment, the butler calls for him and informs him that Master Verikan has arrived at the mansion. MC realizes that apparently his brother's patience has run out, and the butler explains that he has already refused the boy's messages 22 times. Crash says he can no longer ignore it and asks to let him in. Bianca arrives and asks to drink some water. In addition, she comments that he smells of sweat. MC explains that it is because residues are expelled when using aura, and that maybe it is because he is used to the smell of erosion so he does not even notice it. She asks whether he should not take a bath before meeting his brother. He does not care about that at all, since eventually he will end up changing again anyway. She then asks please that he not get close, and he is surprised by the girl giving orders to her fiancé and believes that she has really grown. The girl runs off and he becomes excited, since she is like his little sister, so he cannot help teasing her. He also feels that his acquaintances from before his regression would be looking coldly at him at that moment, like Arthur questioning whether he is becoming soft, since that way, he will not be able to stop the destruction of the world. MC reflects on that guy and despite hating to admit it, knows that, except for the final moment, Arthur was a hero who was always on the front lines and never let his guard down. This makes him wonder what the guy is doing at that moment. At that instant, Verikan approaches and asks whether he is flirting with the fiancé, since they seem to be having quite a lot of fun. MC says that everyone needs some time to have fun. Verikan finds something strange, since he is facing the boy who used to be so afraid of him that he would not even make eye contact, but at that moment, he is looking directly at him without any problem. This makes him believe that the rumors of his brother having defeated Anax might be real. Crash takes the opportunity to ask whether he should not be busy, since even so, he appeared at the mansion. Varokin does not understand what he means by the culprit, and he explains that he heard that the academy will be accepting students based on exam results instead of their status, and his brother says that, in fact, the real reason for the visit is that he has an order to deliver, since they will prevent the world erosion that occurred at Mount Gerlach. Crash is startled by this, since that type of assignment should not be mandatory until 15 years old. His brother asks him not to worry, since he will be accompanying him as a guardian, and therefore asks whether his little brother, who supposedly defeated Anax, is not scared stiff. MC becomes irritated by this, and since it is clear that his brother wants to test his strength to keep him under control, even so, he says that he accepts. After all, he is more accustomed to erosion than to a peaceful everyday life, and even knowing that it is a trap, he still has a plan. Bianca asks where he will be going, and he replies that he will be away for a while to deal with an erosion mission, and therefore she should not follow him. She replies that she will not, and also comments that, logically speaking, sending a 13-year-old child to deal with that type of mission is absurd. MC is surprised by this jab aimed at his brother, and Varokin asks what a cursed princess thinks she is saying. At that moment, MC interrupts, making it clear that Bianca is his fiancée, and therefore believes that his dear older brother would not take the words of a child seriously. Both stare at each other, and Varokin simply leaves. Once again, the MC says that she did a good job, but she says that she did nothing. He knows this, since even if she is not aware of it, there is no problem. Bianca asks him not to faint again, and he prepares to go on this new journey. The corrosion of the world is a phenomenon in which the world is literally corrupted by another world, and, over time, corrupted species appear, and, at other times, climatic changes occur, and if the corrosion continues, the area itself turns into another world. The expedition finally arrives at the Gerlach mountain swamp. Varokin comments that it is a 3-star corrosion, and that the purification team will begin their work as soon as the boss is defeated. The MC reflects on it being a 3-star corrosion, since it is a level that a mid-level order of knights and specialists could handle without problems. In addition, his brother may not look like it, but he is at the specialist level, a high-level one, and should be able to defeat the boss of that corrupted zone without problems. His brother approaches and comments that he only brought him along so that he could gain some experience, even though he is a low-level specialist. Crash, all happy, replies that he understands, but he knows that reality is different, and, in fact, there is only one reason why he agreed to show up in that place, since he wants to temporarily test a solution for his outburst. The team begins killing the monsters, but they think it is a drag since the quantity is enormous, and, at that pace, there will be no end. At that moment, the MC warns that that corrupted species has no head but has teeth, and if one is bitten, it will swell, so one must make sure to envelop the entire body with an aura. The soldier is moved by these words and asks if he has, by any chance, already fought in any corrupted world. He replies that he is still very young, and that it would even be strange if he had come close to one. His brother does not understand it very well, since he is certain that the MC is useless, but for a first time he is extremely calm. He remembers himself since when he went to a corrupted zone, for the first time he was 15 years old, and his pride was completely shattered, and because of that, he does not understand how someone even younger is allowing himself the luxury of giving advice to the knights, since this is completely different from his own first time. Crash notices that he is being watched and makes a mocking face, irritating Varokin even more. Because of this, he prepares his sword and goes around killing all the monsters he finds, since he cannot entertain the hypothesis of Crash growing like Charlotte, because if he surpasses him, he himself will become the useless one of the Valheim. The MC approaches and comments that they will soon reach the boss location. Varokin replies that his brother is lucky, since it is easier than it seems for a first time, as there are no other corrupted species besides the boss. Crash replies that this is even more reason to stay on guard, since apparently, there is a 3-star boss capable of killing the entire corrosion by itself. All the knights are shocked, but Varokin shouts for them not to soil themselves in fear just by hearing the words of a child, since the boss is nothing more than a 3-star and therefore they will finish everything quickly. The MC moves away since in the end, he knows that the knights will realize it on their own, and his current focus is something else. At that moment, His eyes widen as he is able to see the energy of the corrupted world. And it is even clearer than before his regression, thanks to the extreme immersion poison in his blood. He takes a bit from his shell and swallows it, becoming nervous, since from that moment on, it is for real. His body begins to collapse, and he vomits non-stop. The knights run over to him, asking if he is okay, and telling him not to overexert himself on his first time. He asks them not to worry since he is fine, but deep down he does not believe that he would really vomit, since corrupted energy is like a potent poison. So in the end it was to be expected. Even so, there is no other choice. After all, it was because of that he mastered the blood immersion poison first. As the secret manual says, he will try to mix his aura with the energy. The aura circulates endlessly like a great river, absorbs the corrupted energy, and eventually will merge with the great river, creating a new color that cannot be painted over. So this is the after effect of the surge. His eyes open and he begins to pant. Immediately, he realizes that he would not have been able to endure it under normal conditions. After some time, he decides that it is time to use the secret technique. After all, after Damalus Valheim, the Seishiken was closed and it was believed to have been erased from history. But one day, a blind ancestor discovered a secret archive. However, due to his blindness, he could not read the archive and had no choice but to close the door to the secret archive. But to prevent someone like him from appearing again, he decided to leave a single secret manual in the archive. A power begins to emerge from his body and grows increasingly intense, that is the sixth sense. A supersensory perception capable of detecting all sensations through the aura at that moment. He can only extend the tips of his fingers, but it is enough to know where he is. The result leaves him extremely excited because the place where he is at the moment is not a world covered by the surge. The surge begins to diminish since he was able to overcome it with the sixth sense. However, he knows that it is a temporary solution and that if he absorbs the energy of the corrupted world, he may have a surge at any moment. In that case, he will still need Bianca's cursed doll, and even if it is a stopgap measure, it does not change the fact that he was able to endure it and for the first time managed to evolve to the next level. At this moment, he feels a horrible sensation approaching, and when he turns around, he comes face to face with a monster that had its eye closed and then opened it, forming an extremely bizarre corruption. Everyone screams desperately that it is the boss of the place. Varoken is startled, as is the MC, since out of nowhere Sengaki, the demon of 1,000 faces of level 3, appeared among them. Immediately, Varoken shouts for everyone to prepare for battle and also activates his Ignis ability. Enveloping his body in flames, all the knights comment that the Lord's ability is always beautiful to see, since it is not only an immense destructive power, because in the end, the ability incinerates the target regardless of what it is. The MC, also surprised, thinks about this technique. That was the ability that burned his arm before, since his brother used to torment him to show the difference in their powers. The MC watches him from afar and imagines that before the regression, the guy was a complete madman, but he does not know how he is now. However, he does not care about that, since deep down, he wishes that nothing has changed. The boss begins to defeat them one by one, and a knight shouts that apparently it is a curse that erases the face, since even the seniors are having difficulties against the 8-armed monster because of this. He believes that there is no possibility for the apprentices to avoid that curse. He does not stop trembling, since they have reached a point where the only choice is to run. But Varoken appears at full speed and attacks the boss, who begins to burn in flames, with the fire spreading across the entire body with this opening. He shouts for them not to give up, since he will create an opening. This fills the knights with hope once again. Since, as they expected, the Lord left the boss unable to fight, Varoken wonders if Crash is watching the spectacle, but he does not understand why his brother is looking at Sengaki and not at him. He does not understand this, but shifts his gaze to the boss and realizes that it has tears of blood. This makes him realize that there is something wrong, and that, at that pace, it will be very dangerous. Therefore, he leaps backward with all his might, unable to understand the enormous pressure the monster is emanating, and concludes that they must kill the demon at that exact moment before any anomaly occurs. That said, he shouts for all the knights to attack the demon at the same time, but after unleashing his attack, he cannot understand how a strike imbued with aura had no effect at all. Next, he looks to the side and shouts, trying to understand how the Knights of Valheim are so intimidated as all of them are completely immobile at that instant. He cannot believe what he has just realized, since he feels something ominous, as if his face were being pulled, and he cannot believe that he was caught by Sengaki. The storm worsens with each passing minute, and Varokin becomes increasingly certain that the situation is dire, and that he will definitely die. Everyone starts shouting, wanting to know where the demon of 1,000 faces is, and even while fleeing in one direction, they realize that they cannot see toward the outside, which implies that the world corrosion may be a closed space. This makes Varokin grow even more desperate, since they will not be able to leave unless they defeat the demon. The MC approaches upon seeing his brother's despair, and comments that he actually possesses a secret technique that might help, since it is something his sister Charlotte passed on to him. He explains that the reason he was able to fight Anax at the Stellar Sanctuary is because of this technique. Even someone like Charlotte had special feelings for the siblings born of the same mother, so the girl does possess emotions. Varokin asks if he truly has a secret technique capable of defeating something like Sengaki. He answers yes, and reasons that instead of avoiding his brother only to die lost in that corrupted area, he extends his arm and says that he knows his brother does not trust him, but asks him to trust Charlotte's ability. Varokin stands up and agrees, since their sister is a genius after all, but emphasizes that if it fails, it will be the end for both of them. The MC, excited, asks him not to worry, as he definitely will not fail. Still amid the storm, the MC comments that the demon is approaching and asks whether the Ignis ability is already ready. Varokin replies yes, and Crash stands up to begin. He starts gathering energy, and all that concentration flows into the sword. Varokin simply cannot believe the focus he is witnessing, since the aura around the sword is something so pure that he has never seen in his life. He confesses that he hesitated when Charlotte told him to add the flames of Ignis to her secret technique, and that no matter how much he practiced, he was never able to master that aura, unable to understand how someone useless managed to do so. The MC asks his brother to grant the Ignis ability, and without wasting time, his brother extends his hand and activates his ability on the MC, who becomes completely engulfed in flames. Varokin asks if something is wrong, and Crash warns that in the end, he will not need him to buy time, as he will be able to do everything on his own. He cannot believe what he is seeing, since Crash's flames are burning more intensely than his own ever did, and the sword will definitely kill the demon of 1,000 faces. He reflects that he lost his subordinates, and that, in an instant, he could only run for his own life. Thus, if Crash defeats the boss, that means he himself is weaker than someone who is called useless. No sooner does he think this, than the MC unleashes a single attack which is enough to cut the monster in half. Varokin is left in shock. Since the boss was indeed defeated by his brother, the sky clears with this victory, and Crash looks back and says that everything is already over. However, Varokin does not like that it was so easy, and because of that, he picks up his sword and attacks with everything he has. However, the MC defends, leaving his brother terrified, unable to understand why the hell he is not able to use Ignis. Because of this, Crash is grateful for never having changed. The conditions to unlock Varokin's ability were as follows. First, to give a part of Ignis to an opponent of his own free will. Then, to acknowledge that this opponent controls Ignis better than he himself does. Finally, it comes from pride. The MC strikes his brother with a blow, since at the moment Varokin tried to attack, Ignis had gained a new owner. While the boss body is engulfed in flames, the MC takes a piece of it and tells his brother that he also thought it would be good if they could have gotten along from the beginning. But no matter how hard he tried, it was impossible to have any kind of relationship because of this hostility. He throws the piece of the monster into the man's mouth and warns that, even though they are brothers deep down, there was a small spark of hope that he would acknowledge him at least once. Unfortunately, it seems he did not have that choice. Varokin only keeps groaning, and the MC says that he writhed in pain when he was burned by his brother on the arm and on the face. Varokin struggles until he loses his life. The MC looks up and says that, ironically, the weather is nice. Soon after all this, back at Valheim's main house, Varokin's Order of Knights was wiped out and the corrosion was raised to 5 stars. The corrosion was raised to 5 stars. And they said that a superior class specialist was required to defeat it at the boy's funeral. They cannot believe that Varokin had to sacrifice himself, since otherwise Crash would not have survived. The enraged butler does not accept that a useless person survived. Meanwhile, The head butler tells him to be careful with what he says, since the boy is Verokin's brother, who sacrificed himself to protect him. At that moment, the MC walks through the door and thinks that apparently everyone believed the testimony, and because of that, there is no need to worry thanks to Verokin. He obtained many results from this expedition. He confirmed that he can control the surges that occur with his sixth sense, became more adept at using blood immersion poison, and through Ignis obtained the black flame since Ignis is an ability that can set anything ablaze. He tried to apply it to the power of world corrosion and never expected it to have that effect, since the firepower of the black flame definitely exceeded his expectations and can be used as a trump card. Now, his only remaining problem to resolve at the main house is to conduct an investigation into the abnormal phenomena in the world corrosion zones. He imagines that people still do not know the real reason, since in truth, it is the work of a world runner. The runner's main body is submerged in an eternal dream and could only see the real world through its lackeys, the undead. After entering the room, he is greeted by a girl. This is Sapphira, a fourth-class investigator of world corrosion. Immediately, he notices a black star on her neck, since he knows what it is. Then he changes his reaction and says that he did not expect to find her so soon. He calls her undead and says that he wants to make a deal, since he will erase her mortality. Sapphira smiles and asks if, by any chance, he is the regressor. She becomes excited by this and says that she was looking for something completely different, but apparently fate sent the wrong man. Now, about the Carmison Immortal Crimson Garden Augusto. Before the regression under Arthur's orders, there was an attempt to steal his immortality, but it ended in failure. At the time, Arthur said that the immortal would be completely occupied regenerating only his own body, with no room to command his subordinates. So the reason Crimson had so many lackeys was because her true body could not move due to a curse. Sigrun asks which part is regrettable, since he must have forgotten how many problems they went through, because the guy increased the corruption zone level, and therefore tells him not to pretend innocence. Arthur asks them not to argue, since in any case they will resolve the immortal's matter. Then he looks ahead and tells the MC that it is a shame he could not steal immortality. He laughs and says that indeed it is a shame, since even if he were reborn it still seemed impossible. This is because it was an absolutely impossible condition, as one would need to be stronger than the immortal. Returning to the present, Crash asks what makes her think that he himself is a regressor. She replies that the moment a mere child proposed such a bold deal, it could only mean that he is a regressor. Then, releasing her power, she comments that a mere regressor trapped in the gears of time thinks he can kill someone like her, who transcends time itself, and therefore he should not tell such obvious lies. He raises his hand and replies that it is not a lie. Then he uses his Black Hood ability, since he can even steal her immortality. Sapphira imagines that in order to find someone capable of killing her, she kept increasing the world corrosion, and apparently, someone who can steal her curse of immortality has finally appeared before her. And so she asks what the conditions are. He replies that the ability will not be activated unless he becomes stronger than her, and therefore asks her to help him with that. She understands that he is basically asking to become her disciple. But if that means getting rid of the curse, she is willing even to sell her own soul. Then, excited, she states that she will make him the strongest man in the world. He feels the strong pressure of her aura even though she is not in her true body. After all, Crimson is strong enough to rival Arthur, with even stronger subordinates under her command. He begins to tremble, but knows that he needs to take the power of a corrupt one to prevent world corrosion and the annihilation that lies ahead. An ability is a unique capability that only one person in the world can possess. By this principle, the regression ability returned Arthur to that life, making it impossible for the MC to regress again by his own will. So if his world is destroyed again, even his existence will disappear, and therefore he says that it will be a pleasure to work with Crim. She is surprised to hear that name in particular, and soon realizes that it is Crash. Because of that, she gives him a smack on the head and orders him to call her master. She asks if he does not live in that house, and he replies that he stayed there for a few years, and even does not remember the faces of his parents at that moment. The Valkyrie, by direct order of the lady of the mansion, says that his mother is calling him. He is startled, since his mother has not even shown her face at the Green Pine Mansion, and believes that perhaps she heard the rumors that he suddenly changed and became interested. In addition, the servant says there is one more thing and explains that when the head of the family returns from the Forbidden Domain, he also wished to meet him. The MC is shocked by this, since his father is someone who has reached the realm of a demigod, and perhaps he sensed something about him through the stars. The servant warns that Lady Arya instructed that he remain in the main house until the heads return. However, Crash imagines that Bianca is waiting, and moreover there is a lot to do and he has no time to waste in that house. That is why he says that, if necessary, he will return and come back when his father calls again. Or perhaps his father may visit him personally at the Green Pine Mansion. As the day goes by, the MC realizes that he is finally free, and in fact will not be returning for a long time. Meanwhile, Cream, in her animal form, taps on the window, calling him ill-mannered. Crash gets irritated and asks if her color is not too flashy. She tells him not to worry, since she can change color whenever she wants, and asks if black suits her better, since she looks more like a crow. He gets annoyed because she is too noisy, but asks about her true body. She replies that he knows very well that her true body cannot move. Only then does Crash reflect that the true regressor is Arthur, and he himself is nothing more than an incomplete regressor using Arthur's ability, but he does not believe it is necessary to explain that to Cream. After some time traveling, they arrive at the mansion, and the MC quickly warns that there is a little white chick at the mansion, and that she must be gentle. The so-called white chick is Bianca, welcoming him. The butler also appears, calling for him, and the MC asks if everything is alright. The old man hands him a letter and says it is from Darling. The boy says that the medicine for the discoloration disease he requested is ready, and that he made it quickly while thinking of him, and that he will even see him soon. Crash informs Ariadne that if someone called Darling appears at the mansion, he must be treated with great care, since he will be his benefactor. The butler says he understands and also mentions that Bianca was quite worried about him the whole time. He says that the girl found out about the trip and therefore asked for a carriage to be prepared to follow him. He is surprised to hear this, and realizes that he did not check the conditions of Bianca's curse. Because of that, he uses his ability, and a notification says that the first condition is to become her friend, and the unlock is complete. The MC simply cannot believe that the first condition was unlocked without him even noticing. She asks if there is something on her face, and he says no, since he only wanted to introduce a new friend, and says that the crow's name is Cream. Bianca squeezes the animal since it is soft like a teddy bear. Meanwhile, the MC is still baffled, as he has no idea how he unlocked that seal that required becoming her friend, since normally when someone says an important person, it can mean relatives, children, friends, or lovers. And since he is technically her fiancé, he believes that lover is the closest possibility. He does not understand how it would be possible to become her lover when she has no emotions, since the conditions were not like this before he regressed. And he is also an adult on the inside. Cream says that apparently Bianca liked her, since she would not let go of her at all. In any case, she says that she wants to test Crash's strength, since the game is over and they must go to the training area. After doing so, he is left collapsed on the ground after taking such a beating. Cream says that she did not imagine that a regressor would have such mediocre talent. He replies that he already said he is a total failure. She says that at least he crawled back to the past using his experiences and secret techniques, but that effort will be surpassed by a true genius in less than 5 years. Cream gathers energy and warns that what she said only applies if they are talking about pure talent, and talent means nothing to her, since if he has no abilities, he can simply steal the talents of others. After all, he is someone who would never have escaped the bottom of the pit, and now he will conquer everything from a place above the clouds until he finally breaks her own immortality. The MC realizes that Cream's true body is that of a man and vows that he will become a much more powerful person. A few days later, Darling finally arrives at the mansion. He asks if he made them wait too long, but Crash just tells him to stop the chatter since he is training. Then he asks if he brought the requested medicine, and he shows that he did, since the medicine is complete. After that, he asks if he is not a genius. The MC tells him not to state the obvious, since his friend has always been a genius. Darling is surprised by those words and asks for a hug, since he found it way too cute. In addition, he says he has something to comment on, as he found out that Annex stopped training after losing to Charlotte but apparently returned to training because of the events at the Stellar Sanctuary. The MC does not believe it, since a scoundrel got inspired after losing to him, and says he does not care about that at all. At that moment, Cream approaches and says that Starlon had other plans beyond Valheim and that everything should be fine, since he planned an elixir to strengthen the crappy body the MC has. In addition, he tells them to ask Darling to prepare some of these potions, since a special medicine that increases physical attributes and aura when consumed is excellent. As for elixirs, they are extremely expensive and some secret manufacturing techniques are passed down through family lineages, just like the elixirs themselves. He finds it annoying how close Darling wants to get, but knows that before the regression these elixirs would be impossible to obtain, since they are only for selected people. Cream tells them not to worry, since he knows the formula and it is enough to have the alchemist make it with that instruction. He orders the elixir to be made and Darling asks why this came up out of nowhere and whether the news about Annex got him excited. In addition, he asks whether there is money for the materials. Since as far as he imagines the Valheim family will not pay for it, he tells him not to worry, since he will find a way inside. He knows he can handle this if he uses the knowledge he acquired before the regression. That said, the crow passes on the instructions for preparing the elixir and the MC relays everything so Darling can make it. The alchemist is surprised, taking notes, and even says he cannot believe where he got so much information. He replies that it is a secret method of his family. Darling admits he is surprised, but still says there is a problem regarding obtaining the materials, since he cannot get his hands on the sun snow fungus or the golden dragon herb, because first of all, the sun snow fungus grows in Hardenharts, but the mountains are so steep and the corruption is so severe that it is impossible to find. He tells him not to worry, since he will ask his fiancée. After all, she is from the Hardenhart's family. Darling says that if that is the case, only the issue of the golden dragon herb will remain, since it is a phantom herb said to grow only near the nests of golden dragons in the remote regions of the Empire, and he could even buy it on the black market, but if the Empire finds out, it will be a huge problem. The MC comments that unfortunately, if there is no other way, he will have to risk buying it on the black market, but his friend asks him not to worry, since he can do it differently. He says there is a junior martial arts tournament held in the Empire of Epiphany for youths under 15 years old, and all the MC has to do is take first place, since the tournament reward is precisely that herb. Crash asks him to remember that he is from the Valheim family, and the Empire is probably using the tournament to gain politically against the Academy. So if a Valheim participates, things will get complicated, but Darling asks him to drink a certain potion because as a genius, he obviously has a plan. He has no idea what it is, but drinks it anyway, only to feel something strange happening to his body. Until his body turns into a woman's. Darling warns that it is fine to participate if he is a girl. The MC gets irritated and threatens to kill him, since it must be some kind of joke, and the boy just apologizes, saying it was the only solution he found. A few days later, the two continue training, and the crow prepares its attack and launches several black slashes. But the MC, who was concentrating, manages to block them one by one and does so constantly, until he is hit by one last strike, and his master orders him to stop there. She explains that the pure blade technique she taught that time is a style that reads the enemy's attacks without retreating. It is a high-level technique to instantly comprehend the movements of his opponent. Then, combined with the natural intuition of the sixth sense he possesses, he will reach a realm of clairvoyance. In addition, she talks about the elixirs, since he can use them to strengthen the body, and his movements will finally keep up with his thoughts, making him even stronger. After all this explanation, the MC goes outside and, with a medicine in hand, asks if by any chance he has not forgotten. This is because a few days earlier, he asked Darling whether the medicine really would not make him be seen. The boy explained that this is exactly the case, since not even magic can detect it, so if he uses it to disguise himself as a commoner, he will be able to enter the tournament. Crash says he understands, although he could have said it before turning into a woman. Darling asks him not to take it seriously, since it was just a harmless joke, and says it lasts about a day. The MC reflects on all this, and imagines that Darling is a trustworthy person, but very exhausting. He reaches the carriage, and the butler says he was waiting for him, and also mentions that he made an offer to Fluker from the lawless zone, and to a merchant who will help with the illegal entry. Crash realizes that she is a merchant of corrupted species, so she should be able to cross the border with that, and he expected nothing less from the butler, since thanks to him, he will be able to leave the mansion without worries. Ariad reinforces that this is true, and, overflowing with confidence, guarantees that he will not let absolutely anyone enter, even if it is the head of the family. The very next day, after Darling gives the medicine for the discoloration disease, Ariad cannot contain his emotion, thanking for life, for curing his daughter definitively. He can die without remorse. However, the MC says that if he is truly grateful, he must continue living since he saved his daughter's life, so he should not dare to die until he says otherwise, and he emphasizes that this is probably a small price to pay compared to her life. He cannot hold back so much emotion, and shouts that he will survive no matter what happens. The MC imagines that at this point he can finally stop worrying about Ariad betraying him. The MC walks a little further, and thanks Bianca for agreeing to his request. He also says that she stayed at his house for a while, and therefore should rest, but she replies no, since as soon as she obtains the solar snow fungus, she will return immediately, and after that, she will be waiting for him at the Green Pine Mansion. He is happy to hear this and says that he will return as quickly as possible. He also sees the beautiful snacks she prepared, and says that he will eat a lot later. With that, he says goodbye to everyone and heads to the Empire. At some stopping points, he defeats corrupted monsters and absorbs their energies to become even stronger. His master asks how the power of corruption is, and he replies that it is stable thanks to his sixth sense. In addition, he thinks it is a pity, since the merchant is following a route that avoids corrupted lands, and it is a pity that he was unable to absorb any unpurified corruption along the way. At that moment, the girl who was eating drops the apple on the ground, and Cream senses something, suggesting that something appeared to stop the carriage. Several bandits capture the girl, and they are excited to see that she is a beautiful girl. Fluker starts crying, thinking it is a damn shame that he could not sense the presence of the bandits, and cannot believe he will die in such a stupid way. However, in the very next second, a slash appears, finishing off a bunch of bandits. In the same instant, the MC appears, and one of them shouts for everyone to advance. His henchmen immediately obey, and they even ask what a little boy will do now that he can no longer rely on his weapon. The MC draws his sword once more, and, with absurd speed, takes the lives of them one by one, with extreme ease until only the last bandit remains. Brock gets irritated and attacks to kill, but Crash manages to block, and the bandit attacks with greater speed, yet cannot understand how all his strikes are being blocked. Annoyed, he says that cheap tricks will not work, and the MC asks if that is really so, since he wanted to keep dealing with it without even using the sixth sense. Brock decides to use his secret technique, which will shatter the boy's sword and body with a single attack. As he attacks, he uses the Phantom Battle Axe, changing the direction of the strike almost instantaneously. The MC is startled by this sudden change, and instinctively activates his ability Ignis to block the blow, then asks whether he might be a disciple of the Assassin Dog since he recognized the technique. The Assassin Dog is Berkman, an assassin who became a servant of the corrupter of the world. Alongside the white demon Bianca, he was destined to infiltrate Stardun later to kill many people, but ended up being defeated by Charlotte. The MC continues the fight without understanding what is going on, because he remembers that in his past life, thanks to this event, Charlotte became famous throughout the Empire all at once. But it is still not the time for him to infiltrate the Empire. That said, he advances with everything he has, and with a single strike puts an end to the bandit. Still wondering if it is not too early for his appearance, he feels a bad premonition about this, and asks them to quickly take the golden dragon herb so they can get out of that place. After some time, they arrive in Ceylon. The Imperial captain. He goes to the place where tournament registrations are done, and at the reception there are many people. Sicily, who is the fourth princess of the Empire, is impressed by the number of people present, and says that there are many rough diamonds to be polished and that she will take them all to the academy. Her servant says that this does not suit her, since His Majesty would be foaming at the mouth if he heard that the girl asks them not to speak about her father and the hallucinations he has. This girl is the youngest daughter of the Emperor at 7 years old. She had a brilliant mind capable of solving difficult mathematical problems. The teacher asked her to rewrite Imperial history, since they needed to report her talent to His Majesty. Sicily imagined becoming an Imperial candidate, and believes that if someone with a fragile constitution like hers were to get involved in the struggle for the throne, she would certainly be killed. For this reason, she throws the papers onto herself, since she needs to make everyone around her give up on her, or she will not survive. From that moment on, Sicily used her brilliant mind to the fullest, playing the role of a completely unrestrained daughter. Eventually, even those who had praised her intelligence began to give up on her for being unsuitable for the Imperial candidacy. Lena reflects that she has observed the princess for a long time, so she knows that her actions are nothing more than an act. But she noticed that lately she seems to have exaggerated a bit. The girl, on the other hand, asks to look down, and upon seeing the MC, comments that the boy has a dark aura, along with narrow eyes and a pet crow. Cream notices this gaze, and the princess continues analyzing him, since he looks like a villain no matter how one looks at him, and believes that perhaps he is a Valheim, who is the archenemy of the Empire. The servant says that he certainly seems suspicious, but she would not believe that someone from the Valheim family would appear there. Sisley tells her not to underestimate her intuition, and jumps from the top of the hall, since she wants to check up close. She starts to run until she feels something strange on her foot, and begins to fall, realizing immediately that it is telekinesis. However, the MC catches her before she falls, and calls her a troublesome little girl, telling her to watch where she walks. He says this, and continues walking. Sisley finds it even more interesting, since the calm way the boy spoke and his attitude are those of someone who definitely knows who she is. Cream comments that it was very lucky to meet the princess, but Crash disagrees, since he would rather not get involved with her with everything resolved. He signs up for the tournament and decides it is time to find an inn. However, everywhere he goes is unavailable, and he concludes that he will have to sleep on the street that day. At that moment, someone calls out to him. It is an old woman asking if he will participate in the tournament, and saying that if he has nowhere to stay, he can lodge at her house. He looks closely at the woman, and the crow says that it is obviously suspicious as hell, but the MC does not care at all, and thanks her for the offer. Cream asks if it is some kind of joke, and whether his mother did not teach him that he should not serve strangers. He reinforces that he slept on the street his entire past life and is tired of that. The crow sighs deeply, and concludes that that regressor is annoying as hell already at the old woman's house. She says that he can use the back room on the second floor and will even prepare dinner. He thanks her, and believes he was very lucky since he has a place to sleep. However, this does not last long, as Sisley was waiting for him. He cannot believe it, and the crow shouts that it was obviously a trap. He knows he will be in trouble if he is discovered, and therefore believes he should just ignore her. However, she approaches and asks why he is ignoring her, since a cute girl is trying to talk, and asks if perhaps he has another type of preference. He gets irritated by this insinuation, remembering Darling's tastes, and replies that she is not his type, since there are many people more beautiful than her in that world. Sisley asks him to name one, but he walks away, since he has no obligation to answer. In any case, she keeps following him, and this irritates him. She continues insisting that they drink together, since she wants to know more about him, but the MC simply refuses, because he is not in the mood. This leaves Sisley irritated to the point of saying that he is aware that she is a princess and still acts that way. In addition, she calls him a crad of the kingdom of Starlon. The MC is startled by this, since the girl figured out where he is from just from that brief conversation. He is aware that if he says anything, he could be exposed as a Valheim, and because of that, says he does not know what she is talking about, and even that a child should finish dinner to go to sleep. Soon she gets furious, questioning who he is calling a child. Lena approaches and asks if the boy is really from the Starlon region. The girl confirms and says that even though the language is the same as the Empire, the Starlon region has its own intonation, and the accent is definitely similar to the Empire's, but the essence cannot be changed. The bodyguard is surprised, since such a subtle difference is something only the princess could notice. The girl gets excited, since MC reacted in a way that suggests he knew her, but she has no idea who he is. Lena asks if she should capture him for interrogation, and Sisley shouts no, since things have finally become interesting, and because of that, asks not to do anything unnecessary. In addition, she asks if anything was discovered about her sister. Lena says yes, since it was as the princess predicted, because the third princess, Sigrun, is a completely different person compared to a year ago. She states that the girl is not normal. The princess finds that expression dangerous and regrets that her bad feeling was right, and at this rate, the first and second princes will be in danger, as a rain of blood will fall over the Imperial palace. The next day, MC is passing the test with ease. It is announced that the preliminaries are over and the 4 winners must withdraw. Everyone is surprised, questioning who the narrow-eyed guy is and whether he is a resident of the underworld, in addition to having a strange body. MC is annoyed, since the princess expression has been bothering him since last night, as the girl can extract some kind of information even in a short conversation. However, he is relieved anyway, since this did not affect the preliminaries. This stage consists of teams of 100 people and only the 4 best survivors advance to the final. Crash reflects that there were only amateurs and, obviously, the overwhelming difference in power would not be a problem. At this moment, a guy laughs and comments on the suspicious body and, because of that, asks if MC is, by any chance, from the famous family of assassins, the Night Crows. He reflects on this. Since this family is a group of assassins that are not from the Empire, they are feared as the most dangerous force in the underworld and ended up becoming one of the factors in the fall of the Empire. He is aware that he does not know many details, since he is not from the Empire, but he has never heard of anyone from this family entering the academy and, because of that, says he is mistaken as he is not from the Night Crows. The boy asks him to calm down, since he has no idea if someone is after him and only wanted to get along with some colleagues from the underworld, and, right after, says goodbye, saying it is a pleasure to meet someone from the Night Crows. MC thinks about what the boy said about someone being after him, and the crow decides to see what is going on. Because of that, he flies toward the boy and uses his mind control, making him walk back to MC. He does not quite understand what is going on, and Krim explains that it is just mind control. MC takes the opportunity to ask what happened to the Night Crows. The boy answers that they entered a crisis of destruction recently, and that this was by order of their new master, which led to their destruction. MC, intrigued, asks who the new master is. He answers that it is the second prince of the Ifania Empire, Sisley's brother. Because of that, he asks if it is really that person and what the problem is. The boy says that the Night Crows are a trap that the Empire prepared for the nobles and are being used to track and adjust their movements. The Imperial family had been the master from the beginning, and the fact that the Night Crows and the Imperial family were connected was something that was originally meant to be kept secret from the public. Crash finds it strange that even a low-level guy knows that the second prince is the master, so someone is using the prince and intentionally spreading rumors. However, something is wrong, since originally the role of the second prince was to strengthen the influence of the first prince. In this case, the one who benefits from all this conflict is Sigrun, Sisley's sister. The MC finds it incredible since Arthur's memory inheritance really worked, and if that is the case, the person Sigrun will attack is the one who supposedly killed herself after hiding the Emperor's symbol, the one who made Arthur an emperor in name only. This is the fourth princess, Sisley. To ensure that she can hand over the throne she conquered to Arthur, Sigrun tried to eliminate her own sister. If Sigrun becomes empress, the empire will grow on an overwhelming scale, and to prevent the end of the world, he needs to intervene in this plan. For the sake of the world, he has decided that he will steal Sigrun's ability, and because of that, he asks his master for help, and the crow says that it would normally act only based on information, but since he decided to lend his power, then he will help. In addition, he questions what they will do with the boy. The MC tells them to leave him standing there, since he has already served his purpose. Krim then decides to turn him into one of his servants, and, still using mind control, orders him to leave. The MC believes that the time has come to use their appearance, and they will meet the real Night Crow who is hiding in the finals. This assassin in question asks another what the MC's name was, since, as he managed to impress a member of the Night Crows, he will have to teach him a lesson. Back at the tournament, in the main event, the MC wins another fight, and it is announced that Crash is the winner of match 32. Everyone in the audience starts shouting, "Night Crow," and he realizes that everyone is completely convinced that he himself belongs to that family. In addition, he also notices that the brat is watching even after being warned. That is because, on the night after the end of the preliminaries, he was with her, and the princess comments that she heard he destroyed the preliminaries and feels disappointed, since he really only looks like a child, but she does not know the reason for that worried expression on his face. However, she is startled the moment the MC says that she has a strange life. Sisley asks if something happened, and he tells her to just protect herself. She says that the next day will be the main event, so she will not even sleep, and something must have happened while she was not looking, and she has no idea where he got the information. Because of that, she asks if they can really trust the royal spy hired by the bodyguard. Lena says that, as a precaution, she will check again. The MC looks at her once more, and believes that, if she appeared in the arena even after being warned, then she realized her sister's terrible plan. With that said, he tells Krim that he wants to see the real Night Crow appear. After returning inside, the assassin appears, asking if it is fun pretending to be a Night Crow. The MC feels that he has seen that before, and admits that he did not expect them to appear so soon. The boy draws his daggers and charges forward. Crash begins dodging all the attacks until he grabs his arms. However, a skeleton begins to emerge from the assassin's arm to attack. But it is useless, since with just one kick the MC destroys those bones, and also lands a headbutt that breaks the boy's teeth. He warns that it is useless, since forbidden arts that use the power of world corruption do not work on him, and calls him Evilesque. The assassin cannot believe how his true identity was revealed so easily. MC says that he is aware that Sergun has his heart in her hands, and therefore asks to make a deal, since with his ability, he will be able to take his heart back, and because of that, wants her to tell everything about the prince's plan. After all, he already knows that the corruptor known as Night Crow is the necromancer, Avalask, having had her heart stolen, and being kept captive by the Empire for 1,000 years. She is a corruptor. One day, Arthur said that she could be useful, but the blue generation does not like corruptors. They only knew that she was the only necromancer in the world. Corpses do not leak information, even if the assassin's mission fails. And a necromancer who commands corpses is excellent, especially in a family famous for assassinations. MC arrives, kicking the door, since before his regression, the Night Crows were eliminated before he knew their identity. But now, he will have the girl to extract information. She falls into despair since she was found so quickly, and MC, with his hand on her face, tells her to calm down. But Avalask screams, wanting to know what he will do with her heart. He says that first he will show the ability he possesses. He uses his Black Hood magic to unlock the girl's conditions, and knows that with so many conditions, a direct approach would be difficult. Therefore, he asks if she fully trusts him with all her heart. Since he can take it immediately, she begins to cry and screams that she trusts him. He says that he does not just want to hear words, since he needs to see trust. He asks if she is perhaps tired of her current life, since if she recovers her heart, she will be able to stay lazily in her room all the time, letting the corpses do the work. But if she cannot recover her heart, she will have to obey the royal family for the rest of her life. She becomes desperate since she no longer wants this job and, crying, says that she has already worked for more than 1,000 years and, because of that, wants help. He reveals that she has no other choice but to trust him and asks her to offer her heart in exchange for her truest desire. Avelos continues begging since she wants to live peacefully, just playing and slacking off every day, and because of that, asks him to take her heart. MC liked those words, and because of that, now she is free. He tells her to keep the promise she made. After all, it is a trade, and guarantees that he will return it when he is finished. She laments since she does not want to work, but he wastes no time and asks what Sergun is planning. She asks if he knows Sarah, who is known as Lena and is the swordswoman bodyguard of the 4th princess. In short, they were going to kill that girl. It was ordered to use her corpse to put an end to Sicily. The swordswoman cannot believe how she was defeated, especially by Damelia. The girl tells her to be grateful since she died for the Empire. Saying this, she drives the spear even deeper and even calls the girl Sword of Madness. Then she tells Avalis Puppet to remember that it is an order from the princess and orders it to manipulate the corpse so that it kills Sicily. Iphania, she imagines that it has already been a year since she returned to the past and wants to know if Arthur is watching, since she and Sigrun are doing everything for him because she misses him. One day before the destruction, on the first Saturday after the regression, at 1 in the afternoon, Arthur says that they will meet in front of the Statue of Peace. She had been so happy that she almost jumped with joy when she heard that promise and, after the regression, went to the place. But Arthur never appeared. They do not understand where the hell Anathel Arthur is, and it has already been a year since they waited for him. She wants to believe his words, but first, she needs to recover her former strength. She knows that she needs to work more to ensure that the mission is a success. Suddenly, she tells the puppet to wait and asks about MC, whether it happens to have his corpse. It replies that yes, and she says that it did a good job, although it is not to have strange ideas, since even if Sigrun is not there, it should remember that it has her heart in its possession. The puppet replies that it is aware and, once again, leaves. Damelia thinks it is outrageous that she is hiding such a cute boy and that it is almost a waste that MC is a corpse. The next day, Crash prepares for the fight and cannot believe that he will face the commoner Pilly in the end. On the outside, he gives a very common impression, since he is a pure boy who dreams of world peace, but in reality, he has the potential to enter the blue generation. The boy says he is sure that the MC does not want to be an assassin and, since they reached the finals, he says their entry is guaranteed so he can stop being a night body and have a normal life. Because of that, he tells him to stop being an assassin since he seems to be a kind comrade. The MC listens to all of this and reinforces even more that the boy is truly gentle. However, he gives a warning, since clinging to hope will not allow him to overcome despair. Pilly laments being rejected, and after the judge starts the match, the boy uses the 10 steps of heaven to attack. But Crash, knowing what kind of attack it is, defends his back without even looking behind. Pilly cannot believe his feint was read. Since it is as if the MC completely understands his swordsmanship, Crash imagines that the boy's expression is as if he had seen a ghost, but technically he is one, since he once took his life. He knows that boy grew up in a region that snows all year round and developed various techniques, and before the regression, he knew him better than anyone. The MC knows that, by combining his experience with his sixth sense, even if he moves slower than his opponent, his sword will strike first. Because of that, he tells Pilly to become stronger and lands a direct hit that was enough to win the match. Before leaving, Pilly asks if they will meet again somewhere. The MC remembers their past, when the boy said he would try even harder, since the curse had been removed from his body, ensuring that he would protect that world. The MC knows that was the first time he heard a thank you, and because of that, he says they will meet again at the academy. The boy says he understands and that he is looking forward to it. The second prince, watching the match, tells Avalask that she was truly 100% prepared and expected nothing less from a night body. He imagines that if he uses this group of assassins to attract 9 more, he will eventually have the throne all to himself. She says she is honored to have a favor granted to the second prince, and Siphon asks her to maintain that humble attitude. Obeying like a lion dog at that moment, they notice a strange movement, and the butler shouts that this is the second prince's location. However, he realizes they are the Black Dragon Knights, and does not understand why that order is there, since they are used to punish criminals. Demilia approaches and announces that the second prince is under arrest on suspicion of the murder of the fourth princess. Sisley, the boy, becomes outraged and questions why he would kill his own sister. She warns that they discovered he ordered Sisley to be killed, but this leaves Siphon furious with rage, since he never wrote anything like that to anyone. However, a voice questions who said the princess is dead. Demilia recognizes that voice, and Lena tells her to forget the murder, since not even the shadow of an assassin was seen. The woman cannot believe what is happening and why the girl is still alive. On the night Lena was killed, she was moving at high speed. Since the princess' intuition was correct, that was when the girl asked if they could really trust the royal spy they had hired. She said she would check again. When she heard it, she thought it was impossible. But the spies were drawn in, and she does not understand why the hell Sisley is being targeted. At that moment, Krim appears calling Lena and says that, in exchange for her life force, she will grant her the power of immortality for a while, so she must pretend to be dead. The swordswoman is startled when she realizes it is the MCS Crow speaking directly in her mind. The power is drained from her body, and she questions what the hell he did and whether she really has to pretend to be dead. As soon as she says that, Damelia appears behind her and immediately drives the spear into her stomach. That made her realize that, if it were not for the crow, both she herself and the fourth princess would have died at that moment. Sisley orders the arrest of the vice-captain of the Black Dragon Knights on suspicion of espionage. The guard is startled, asking what she means by spy. The princess explains that Damelia used the guards because she was convinced they were dead. Then, with a single command, she orders the swordswoman to finish it, and with a simple movement, she strikes a blow that launches the guard with full force against the wall. Damelia cannot believe how things ended up like this, since she had ordered Evlask to kill Lena, and concludes that the fourth princess is astute for having realized everything, and, because of that, her plan was ruined. She knows that this is the reason Sigrun wants to kill her sister so badly. Because of that, she places her hand on the heart inside her bag and orders Evlask to kill the princess immediately. The girl panics, since the MC has not yet stolen her heart, and as she loses control, she screams for him to save her. At that moment, the Black Hood ability goes to the heart and pulls it from Damelia's hand, leaving her unable to understand why the heart disappeared. She becomes enraged since she failed to kill the fourth princess, failed to capture the second prince, and even lost Evlask's heart, and cannot believe it was all for nothing. Only then does she come up with an idea, since she needs to kill the princess on her own, and will take advantage of everyone being distracted by Evlask's puppets. She prepares herself and advances with her absolute speed, telling Sicily to die at once. However, Crash steps in front, blocking the attack, and even the swordswoman is surprised to see who it is. D'Amelia questions how a mere corpse managed to stop her divine spear. The MC says that, as always, her simple way has never changed. She is startled, since he apparently knows her, and the prince, not fully understanding what is going on, realizes it is his chance and orders her to be captured immediately. The guards take her spear and inform her that she is under arrest on suspicion of murdering the Imperial family. She becomes furious at this outcome, since even though her plan was exposed, she should not have done anything unnecessary, and all she wants is for Arthur and Sigrun to help her. Cicely asks if the MC is alright, and he realizes he barely managed to block the attack even using his black flames, and is still far from master level. She says that this is what happens when facing the divine spear head-on, but he replies that she is safe and that is all that matters. The girl becomes extremely embarrassed, and the second prince shouts for them to find the other accomplices of what happened. Because of that, the MC enters the shadows together with Evlask, and tells the princess to keep an eye on her siblings. However, she tells him to wait, since she needs to treat his injuries, but Crash tells her not to worry. As he is used to getting hurt, the swordswoman does not understand what he is talking about, but the princess agrees with everything, although she regrets that he is leaving without her being able to thank him, and promises that she will repay this debt one day. They appear in the carriage, with him finding this movement ability incredible despite having many restrictions. Evlask laments, since she can only teleport living people over short distances, and hands over the golden dragon herb that he had requested. He fulfills his part and hands over the heart, since with that they are even. She was sure that he would make her work forever like the corruptors were, and he does not understand why he would be one. She, in fact, is doubtful, since from what she saw, he used the power of corruption when he stopped Amelia's attack. He understands what is happening, since in her view, the black flames are the power of corruption, and that is why she believed in him the whole time. At that moment, the crow apologizes for interrupting the conversation, but says that he received a message from a subordinate, and apparently something happened to his fiancée. He asks what that means, and the crow says that he just received a message saying that a bastard known as the assassin dog invaded the mountains, and Bianca appeared at that moment. The MC realizes that this was the bad premonition he had when he encountered the assassin dog's disciple, and knows that the situation is terrible. For that reason, he warns that they are heading immediately to Hardenhart's. Avalask becomes intrigued, since he is a corruptor who has a fiancée, and, from what she has heard, he is the youngest son of the Valheim family who was engaged to someone from the Hardenharts. The MC comes clean and reveals that he is not a corruptor and, undoing his disguise, reveals that his real name is Crash, and that he is the youngest son of the Valheim family. The girl is so shocked that she lets go of his heart and shouts that this is insane, since the boy she knew had always been someone from the Valheim family in secret. Meanwhile, in the territory of the Hardenharts, Jenica cries, since if she had been honest, Bianca would never have climbed the mountains. Krim's subordinate asks why Bianca suddenly decided to climb the mountain. She explains that the girl couldn't find any in the market, and didn't know she would be foolish enough to go alone. A few days earlier, Jenica had made it clear that she would get what that useless Valheim wanted and, because of that, her sister could return home. Bianca looks back and says that Crash is not useless at all. Besides, she didn't ask her to follow since she only wanted a search party. The girl says it doesn't matter, since she is determined to complete this mission, because she wants her to return immediately. Bianca says she understands and comments that her sister has hated her since the beginning, since she believes their mother died because of her, and says she will return home as soon as she finds the fungus. Jenica does not accept this, since she didn't want things to end like this at that moment. The assassin hound appears asking if he can join them. They look back in shock, since someone with a terrifying aura appeared out of nowhere. She tries to understand who the man is, and the guards tell the girls to run, but the assassin hound kills them for getting in the way. Bianca pulls her sister through the snow until they manage to hide. Jenica asks what is wrong with that guy, but all her sister says is that she promised Crash that she would definitely bring back the solar snowfire. Her sister says she is tired of hearing about his fiancée, and that she doesn't want to die in that place, and says she has an idea, since they are equipped with a movement artifact and might be able to delay him if they reach the glacial cliff. The hound realizes they were clever, even though he sees no difference. At the cliff, Jenica apologizes, saying it is her fault, but Bianca points forward, saying they must jump onto the rock ahead. Her sister says that if they miss, they will die. But Bianca says they will die anyway if they don't jump at that moment. The assassin appears, telling them to step back, and, without thinking twice, Bianca grabs her sister's arm and the two jump off the cliff. He is confused, wondering if they are trying to kill themselves, until he realizes that, in the end, there is a rock to land on, and finds it amusing. Since he also wants to play, Bianca tells her to trust her and, at the same instant, throws herself at the hound, so the two fall down the cliff, since that is the only way her sister would be safe. Jenica remembers all of this and, crying, says that was the last time she saw her. Then, a group was dispatched to the place to find her alive, but they were unsuccessful. She feels guilty, since if she hadn't suggested the cliff area, none of this would have happened, and if she had been honest from the beginning, they would be safe in the mansion. The boy says he is sure that Bianca is safe somewhere. She tells him to stop saying nonsense. Since a week has passed, and even if she managed to escape the assassin, Bianca spends all her time reading books, and there would be no way to survive in the deep mountains. The girl is actually sleeping, and in her dreams all she wants is to see Crash. She wakes up and realizes she fell asleep again. She reflects that she survived for days with only nuts and the heat from the solar snow fungus. And at least her legs are fine after falling off the cliff with the assassin. She kept climbing to higher places to send a request for help. Eventually, she reached a place where solar snow fungi grow in abundance. She picks up these fungi with her hand, since, as the name suggests, they emit natural heat. Being in a cave about to collapse, she managed to stay warm. She used a survival book as a guide and managed to treat her injuries. But between the cold, the injuries, and the lack of nutrition, her stamina reached its limit. She does not know if she will be able to hold on much longer, since she keeps falling asleep. And it is a pity, since she had promised Crash that she would deliver the fungi to him. The assassin feels relieved to finally find her and says that her path ends in that place. She crouches down since she saw a nut, and at that moment, an axe flies toward her and causes a massive explosion that throws the girl away. At that moment, the assassin dog approaches, calling her weird, since her expression did not change at all, and admits that he did not expect the fiancée of someone from Valheim to be so troublesome, and that if she had behaved like a hostage, she might have returned home intact. He takes her hair ornament, since he will be able to earn good money, and all Bianca can think about is that she wants to return to the Green Pine Mansion with the MC, reading books while he trains. Maybe the days she spent with him left some emotions behind, and for someone who has no emotions, she knows how valuable that is, and if she had realized how comfortable and fun it was, she would have enjoyed it more. So once again, she calls for the MC, and at that moment, he appears, punching the assassin in the stomach, sending him flying backward while questioning who the hell arrived. Crash, holding Bianca in his arms, says she did very well, and asks to leave the rest to him. The girl feels relieved to see him and faints. The MC tells Krim to take care of her, and the crow warns that he will not be able to intervene, since his servants are not strong enough to fight, and Evlask is still afraid of the guy. He says that is not a problem, since the necromancer teleported him to the place, and that was already a great help. Krim says that last time he escaped by luck, but states that unfortunately the assassin dog is stronger than him, and therefore asks if he is sure he can win. The MC replies that it does not matter how strong the guy is, since in the end he will win. Bergman asks who he is, and why he is intervening. Crash tells him to give it back, but the guy does not understand what until he takes the ornament back since it belongs to his fiancée. Immediately, the assassin dog advances since he is facing the famous brat from Valheim, and soon the MC realizes how fast the guy is, since he can barely keep up with him using his sixth sense. Bergman says that if he takes both of them as hostages, the price will increase tenfold. Both begin to exchange blows, and the MC is increasingly pressured. The dog wants to see how long he will be able to block the attacks, until he lands a direct hit on the sword that sends it flying away. Then he approaches since the game is over, but finds it strange since Crash disappeared, and he cannot sense him anywhere. The MC appears behind the opponent and lands a close-range strike strong enough to crack some of the guy's ribs. However, the MC picks up his sword again since he needs an even stronger blow, and so he advances with his Ignis ability. The guy does not understand what the hell is happening and activates his ghost link, which puts the MC into a kind of illusion. The dog takes the opportunity to approach and asks if he believes he will be able to endure this, and since the search party will arrive at any moment, he decides to deliver the final blow to end it all. The MC knows that this is a secret technique that manipulates the sense of aura through sound. Before his regression, he would have been defeated in an instant, but he has already overcome this many times, and his hypersensory perception through the flow of mana can activate the mind's eye. He is aware that he cannot show all his cards. Meanwhile, Bergman wonders if it was a bluff, since when the MC blocked his axe, he showed a movement that was far from normal, and he does not know how long the phantom bond of such a dangerous power will last. And he was right, because out of nowhere, the MC breaks free, and the dog laughs. As he was sure he was not an ordinary prey, he realizes he will have to be more careful when approaching, but finds it strange since Crash is not reacting to his provocations. This makes him consider that his ability is finally taking effect, and so he activates the Phantom Axe, as he must continue attacking until he tires and wants to see how long he will endure this endless illusion. The MC blocks as best as he can, even with some attacks passing through his defense, and Krim becomes worried since at this rate Crash will really die. Evlask asks if it is really fine to let him die in a place like that, and wonders if she should help him, but she is aware that if she defeats Bergman, it will be extremely problematic, since his master, the Mad Dog, will hunt her down for revenge. She watches the course of the battle, and decides that despite her hesitation, she must repay her debt and cannot abandon her benefactor. However, the crow throws her away, telling her not to interfere, since it was the MC himself who chose to deal with the situation alone. Because of this, he asks her to trust the man who restored her heart, since he has the mental strength to carry the fight to the end. Evlask says that is fine, but warns that if Crash dies, she will resurrect his corpse. The MC realizes he is at his limit and has been reading the assassin dog's attacks using his mind's eye. But his aura is exhausted, so, from that moment on, he needs to trust his instincts. However, the axe that hits was an illusion, and the assassin dog appears from above attacking, ensuring that this will be his end. The MC panics, as his situation has worsened too much. But he learned the truth about his limits a long time ago. He was a weak boy who had no talent, and unlike geniuses, it was impossible to grow stronger in the face of an opponent with overwhelming strength. He knows that because of this, he has been hiding his fangs until now, and activates his forced rupture, blazing erosion. Using ignis flames to convert the energy of world corruption, he surpasses the strength and limits of human flesh. In his current state, he can only maintain this ability for exactly 3 seconds, and filled with rage, he declares that he will finish this before that Bergman panics, as he cannot follow the strike with his eyes alone. And knowing he will die, he activates his illusory scream. Crash thinks this is annoying, as he aimed for his neck, but the sound blurred his vision and disrupted his aim. The assassin dog realizes the blow landed on his shoulder, and, because of that, activates his technique and attacks once more to end the fight. The MC sees the attack and knows his mind's eye tells everything, as the effects of blazing erosion are fading, and his head is about to be cut off by the man's claws. Immediately, he activates his black hood, as he will not die in a place like that, even in his dreams. And because of that, his arm gets cut off. However, the mouth on his hand is still moving, just like his mind's eye. The crow is soon surprised when he sees what it is about, because in that state, the MC's concentration reached the domain of fusion with the world, and all the senses of his body went to the maximum level, reaching an absolute state. At that moment, the dog realizes he has lost, and, in the next instant, has his body cut by a colossal attack from Crash, which split his body in half. Krim is shocked when he sees the result of the battle, since the MC is extremely injured, because the strong defeat their enemies without a scratch. But for the weak to overcome, the strong requires a great sacrifice. The crow approaches and asks if he is satisfied. He laughs, and, falling into the snow, says he is far from satisfied. Krim then asks them to return, and Evil asks, using her teleportation, takes everyone home. Now, an event in the past life before the regression, Bianca says that if she could express her emotions, the world would not seem so gray. Crash listens quietly, and she asks what would be worse, having emotions or having none, and comments that, in any case, he would not care if she died. After all, they are practically strangers now. He says the family decided this on their own, because the head of the Hardenharts simply lost his mind one day and beat his entire family to death before taking his own life, and Bianca was the only survivor, saved by the second daughter, Jenica. In response to the tragedy, the Valheim house considered the marriage alliance worthless, and unilaterally broke the engagement between Crash and Bianca. Thus, that meeting was arranged only so they could say their final goodbye. The MC says he is aware that they will not see each other again, and asks her to consider what he is about to do as warning, since he will not be by her side if she gives up on living. With that, he uses his ability to remove the curse from her body after absorbing everything. He knows that a simple doll will be neutralized instantly, and therefore asks how she feels. Because on that day, Bianca was freed from the snow doll curse for the first time, and, with her entire body distorted, she simply says that the world is truly cruel at the same time that she regained her lost emotions. She also became a monster 3 years after that event. In the territory of the Hardenharts, the soldiers question how long the war will last. The commander explains that all of this happened because the second prince of the empire sought asylum in Hardenharts. The prince possesses information that could shake the very foundations of the empire, and that is how the war began. He says that the White Phantom killed the poisoned king out of revenge and isolated himself in the ice pavilion of the Northern Sea. An explosion occurs at the site, and the MC on top of the hill questions what the soldiers of Starlon are doing, since they are responsible for the supply depot, and does not understand how they can be so careless. At that moment, the soldiers appear shouting for everyone to stay alert, since Crash is a member of the Blue Generation. He begins to flee, since he used too much of his curse, to the point that not even a saint could heal him, until he reaches the destroyed castle. Unable to believe that he has no choice but to ask Bianca for help, he starts knocking on the door, asking her to open it, until a glow appears from inside, and several ice arrows fly toward the soldiers. Finishing them one by one, she says it has been a long time since she last saw him, and, with a sword in her chest, asks if he is okay. The MC cannot believe what he is seeing, and asks if, by any chance, the wound was caused by the son of the poisoned king. She simply asks if he remembers what she asked before, about having emotions or not, and which would be more painful. Then she explains that on the day of her family's incident, Jenica said she never truly hated her from the bottom of her heart, and that she only hates herself for hating Bianca, and that she is a child who did not deserve to be hated. Bianca heard all of this, and, at that time, it was as if she had no emotions, and did not understand what they meant by a contradictory feeling. Because of that, even when the family fell apart, she felt nothing, but at that moment she knows what emotions are and finally understood their words, and her sister truly loved her. She cried a lot, since she wished her emotions had awakened earlier, and maybe she could have shared the sadness she went through with her family, that, perhaps, could have allowed her to stay together with the MC. After these memories, the MC wakes up, since he had that dream, and, calling out to Bianca, the girl appears, grabbing his arm. As he is finally awakened, he wonders if that place is Hardenhart's. But she asks about his arm, if it still hurts. Meanwhile, Crash's concern is why the hell she climbed the mountain alone, since if it weren't for Krim talking about what happened, he wouldn't have arrived in time. She becomes confused about what to answer, and says she just wanted to give the solar snow fungus. He takes a deep breath, takes something from his pocket, and hands her her hair ornament. He also apologizes since he couldn't wrap it very well, and, with a smile, says that he can finally prepare the elixir. She sees all of this and just thinks that she has no emotions, and even with him risking his life to save her, she cannot feel joy nor anger, and much less sadness. She reveals that she feels frustrated to the point she can't stand it, and doesn't want to stay like this all the time, since she wants to smile with him and also wants to cry, and when he is angry she also wants to feel angry together. Having said that, she says she would hate for his emotions to disappear along with hers, and that if he can no longer smile, then she doesn't want that either. The MC tells her not to worry, since the effect of the curse is reduced by half for anyone who is the target. She holds his hand and says that, if that is the case, then she asks him, please, to bring her emotions back. Crash says there was no need to even ask. That's because the second unlocking condition has been met, which was to become the most important person to Bianca. By doing this, all emotions surge in her mind, and seeing him smiling, she can't hold back and runs to hug him. That's because if she could express her emotions like this, at least the world wouldn't seem so gray. After a while, She stops crying, and the MC asks if she is feeling better. This makes him imagine that she has returned to that impassive state and is probably having trouble processing these emotions. Suddenly, Jenica knocks on the door, asking if she can come in, and when she does, she is startled, as she doesn't understand what happened to her sister's eyes. Crash simply asks what she is doing there, and she replies that her brother invited Bianca for lunch and, since the MC cannot move, she decided to bring his meal upstairs. Crash imagines that she wants to talk to Bianca as family, especially since she didn't even look at him in his past life. Jenica apologized to Bianca and he wonders if she will do the same. Because of that, he gets his fiancée's attention and says that if Jenica tries to change her attitude, she shouldn't feel the need to forgive her, since if she doesn't like it, she should just ignore it, and when everything is over, they will return to the mansion together. Bianca hears this, shakes her head from side to side, and opens a smile, saying that she is very happy now. The MC says goodbye to her, and after everyone leaves the room, he tells Evlask to lend an ear for a moment, since he wants to hear what the family wants with Bianca even before hearing anything. He guarantees that if he hears something wrong, he will sink that house into the ground, and the crow warns that he is not in a position to worry about his fiancée, since he doesn't even have an arm, and asks if he can really steal his immortality in that state. MC asks not to get irritated, since an injury like that is nothing for a saint of the Holy Land, as she would heal it in the blink of an eye. One of the 4 nations, the Holy Land of Freeman, it is said that the saint there possesses a divine power granted by God, even capable of resurrecting the dead. Krim asks if he really believes his family would spend a fortune on someone useless like him. MC laughs since it is true, and he has been thinking about replacing him with a better right-hand man. Krim is startled upon hearing that, and questions if that is the reason he recruited Evlask. He says yes, since if it is her, stitching the right arm of a dead man should be child's play. The crow cannot believe he wants to use the girl to the very last drop. He reflects that, in fact, it is just a coincidence, as he does not exactly plan to lose an arm, and says he plans to meet the demon of the sword. The crow is startled, since he knows who he is talking about, and questions if he really found his remains. That is because the demon of the sword was a legendary swordsman who once shook the world. He was a genius of quick draw, and killed his enemies without them even seeing the sword. Krim shouts that he does not agree with this, since the swordsman was his masterpiece, and because of that, he will not let him lay his hands on him. MC warns that he needs to become stronger, and therefore must recreate him, just as he recreated the demon of the sword. The crow tells him to be quiet, since that is exactly why he preferred that loser of the blind sword over him. MC simply says that he is aware that his master cares about all his subordinates. In addition, he knows that finding the weakness of Crimson Garden is quite simple. That is because this guy sees the world through the eyes of his subordinates, and that is why he unconsciously grows attached to them, since he has the saint on his side. If he continues healing his subordinates while torturing them, he will end up revealing the location on his own. MC saw this before the regression, and thought it was insane how Arthur did that. He reveals that the demon of the sword died of old age, but his style has not died yet, and since he knows his master can see everything, then all he needs to do is transplant the demon swordsman's arm into himself, and with that, he will be able to bring the legendary techniques back to life. The crow becomes undecided about this, and asks to wait for 2 days. MC thanks him, and imagines that this resolves the situation of his arm now. He only needs to see how the House Valheim will react to the news he sent, and still needs to settle his matter with Hardenhart regarding that arm. In addition, he is worried about Ariad, since even though he was informed, he must still be concerned. He lies down on the bed, since he is tired, and Avalask remains relaying the communication through the rat. Bianca refuses the request, and Mariakin, who is her brother, says that he has already settled matters with the vassals, and because of that, she must hand over the position of fiancée to Jenica. She replies that she may be a child, but when there is something she wants, she will never let it go. Because of that, she assures that she will not give up her position as fiancée, and it is the only thing in the world she intends to protect. Her brother becomes enraged and questions how she can endure that position, while being a discarded, cursed doll. Jenica stands up, saying that he is going too far, and the boy simply says that he is stating the facts. Bianca says that she does not know exactly what her family has done for her and, in fact, does not care at all about what happens to the house, since none of them truly care about her. Because of that, she reveals her decision. that even if she is expelled from the family or loses everything, she will stay by Crash's side. Her brother stands up furiously until MC appears apologizing for interrupting the conversation and says that he heard some things in the corridor that he could not ignore. Maria-chan becomes concerned and says the boy is injured and therefore should be resting. But he says that there are two rumors spreading lately. The first is that Crash saved his fiancée by defeating the assassin dog, even at the cost of losing an arm, and the other is that the security of House Hardenhart's is pathetic to the point that they couldn't stop an assassin dog. So with the patriarch absent, he is sure they realized which rumor is more convincing. Maria-chan feels cornered and asks what he wants. He says it's simple, as he only wants Bianca to do what he wants. The boy is surprised, as he initially thought his sister just wanted to leave the family and can't believe the two of them really formed a bond. Seeing no options, he accepts the proposal. The MC says he has one more thing and asks if the priest of Harden could heal his arm, since the results will be clear in 2 days and that would be good for a priest's reputation. Maria-chan doesn't understand what the hell he is planning but decides to accept at that moment. Jenica is shocked, calling her brother, since out of nowhere Bianca completely changed her expression. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a man reads the report and, in an imposing manner, says the name Crash. 2 days later, in an open field in Hardenhart's, the MC continues training and thinks it is harder than he expected. Combining the quick draw technique of the sword demon with his single strike ability requires terrifying concentration. He is trying with only one arm and realizes that the fact that he is an idiot hasn't changed. Even so, he is relieved that the curse of the snow doll worked. Thanks to that, the flow of the immersion poison was neutralized. Now he possesses blazing erosion. By burning the energy of worldly corruption absorbed through the poison, it is possible to force the breaking of the Bodhi's physical limiters. However, everything has a price. The moment this ability ends, the user becomes incapacitated. He knows it is an absolute limit and cannot be used for long. If he could at least regulate the heat, he could extend its duration. He has cold energy, the yin energy of the moon, and smiling. This leads him to his next goal, which is the dark lunar physique of the Emperor of Flames. He is confident that once his arms are healed, he will steal that guy's curse. Sometime later, he goes to Evlask's house and suddenly the door opens and number 8, who is Evlask's servant, welcomes him and says her master is waiting. The MC observes those rabbit ears and thinks the interior is just as he remembered. The girl welcomes Crash. As everything is prepared for the transplant, the MC finally stands before the sword demon's arm and asks if it can be attached immediately. She says it is not impossible, and that it will be incredibly painful. And if he is afraid, she can knock him out. He says it's fine, as he is used to pain. She warns that she doesn't want to see him crying in the middle of the process. He lies down beside the arm and the girl begins the procedure. The arm begins to fuse with his body, and he feels a surreal pain. The regeneration of the fusion is completed, and now Evlask moves to the final step, which is the connection of the nerves, causing another terrible pain. At the end, Evlask admits being surprised that he endured without fainting, and the MC testing the new arm thinks there is a reason he endured without losing consciousness and decides to test the immersion poison on that arm. Its appearance changes completely, and it was as he imagined, since if he had been unconscious, the immersion poison could have gone out of control while absorbing the arm, and he begins to control it calmly until his arm returns to a normal appearance. His master asks if it is over, and he says yes, as it feels like his own arm. Krim tells him to test it right away while he is learning the art of quick draw and tells Evlask to provide the training field. But the girl warns that she is not his servant. However, Krim asks if she is not looking for the ancient book Hakuben. Immediately, the girl changes her expression and calls the Krim. Number 8 says she will show the way, and, as they walk, the Raven asks how much he knows about the quick draw art of the sword demon. He says he is aware that it is strong, and Krim asks if that is a joke, since he should not have returned with such a mediocre level of knowledge. With that said, he explains that it is something completely different from anything else. Normally, a quick draw technique involves accumulating aura while the sword is still in the sheath, and then simply drawing it at maximum speed. But the sword demon's technique is different, as it takes the accumulated aura inside and decomposes it into fine particles. These granular aura particles increase explosive acceleration, and when it reaches the limit, the blade bursts outward. After saying that, he asks if he understood, and he says no, But he will just test it. The raven tells him to surrender to the memory of the arm, since the thousands of strikes from the sword demon of that period are engraved in that arm. The MC likes this, since both a good master and an arm of the sword demon are gathered, and now only his own will remains, and he will test it as many times as necessary. A few days later, he continues practicing frenetically, attacking even number 8, who says she can see the blade with her own eyes. The sword demon's technique should be so fast that it would be impossible to perceive. He believes the problem is truly his own aura. And, because of that, thanks the girl for staying with him every day during training. She says that he should trust himself more, and explains that a single-digit number like her has the strength of a master-level fighter. He knows that the people he will one day need to protect are all master-level, but he still gives his thanks. Suddenly, Evlask appears, and the MC says he is returning to Valheim. The girl does not believe it, but he says she can go with him. However, she thinks there are too many frightening people in that family, and he imagines she might be talking about the 5 elders, since they would probably try to make her a slave. Knowing that, he asks if she would mind waiting at her house, and only asks that she keep an eye on someone called the King of Poisons, so that he does not interfere with the Hardenharts. The girl is even more startled, since he is asking her to face the King of Poisons, one of the 10 great sovereigns. However, since it is only to protect the patriarch, she says she will manage somehow. The MC thanks her, and she simply sighs deeply, since he has no idea what she might ask of him one day. Number 8 asks if she is sure about this, and she says that normally she would have followed the boy, but if she stays with him for too long, she will feel as if she is in the company of her former companions. She also believes that the MC will one day become a very dangerous invader, but in the end, the reality is that she prefers to stay at home. However, one thing is certain, since if the MC gets into trouble, she will definitely be there to repay this favor. That's all folks. If you enjoy the video, subscribe and hit the bell. Thanks.